Oh God, it's election night. I feel everyone's intensity online today. A lot more people are worried about the results today than I thought. So hopefully folks can tune in today. We're normally here on Fridays, but we made an exception. I'm not normally up this late, so bear with me. Joe is here. Sean is here. Some more guests will likely join us to check in from their ridings, tell us about some local campaigns, good or bad. And yeah, we'll react to stuff as it comes in. Joe has fandangled a tracker, so we'll be like almost legit. But this is so you don't have to get the results from legacy media. You can be amongst comrades dishing about how shit the NDP campaign was while the results come in, amongst other things. I mean, but it is my niche, so let.
It is. This broadcast, I think, and probably of most of your broadcasts, or many of them, this is drink when we trash the NDP.
Absolutely. Yes. I think it's not a terrible idea. I'll probably be partaking very shortly myself. Unfortunately, the broadcast started sooner than I prepared myself. Sorry?
Just soda water for me, actually. So I can do this indefinitely. I can.
Okay.
I go to the bathroom, I guess.
Yeah, mine's just going to be cola.
Well, yeah, like everyone just take a minute, get comfortable, make sure you have snacks. We're going to be on here for a while. There is results coming in from Atlantic Canada that we can unpack right now. There's also some other things like I just am dying to talk about. But let's start with the results coming in because that's what people are watching, right? They're seeing the numbers. They're already getting stressed out about them or not. Well, now I'm stressed out if Joe's going to put up that ticker. Oh, no. Okay. See? It's contagious. Okay. Sean is here from Atlantic Canada, from Nova. Sean, why don't you just introduce yourself so I don't get anything wrong?
Okay, great. I'm Sean.
You move around over there.
I am politically disloyal and
honest.
which I have come to view as a good quality in a person, I think, or a necessary quality in our times. But I was an NDP partisan for 7 years and recently defected to the Green Party after being embarrassed one too many times, which is a feeling with which I know some folks can relate. But and I'm also involved in some activism stuff here and there, mostly as a protest audio technician in my home area. And and full disclosure, I'm the official agent for Rana Zaman, who is the Green Party candidate in Dartmouth Cole Harbour.
Well, your polls are closed. Right, you're done. Oh, you have to. Oh no, you've got work to do. Official agents everywhere have the most stressful job, sometimes post-campaign.
And I'm the sign guy.
Yes, and the sign guy. I think there's probably a lot of people today that are finally getting maybe one day off. I know a lot of campaigns weren't even bothering to pull votes. They were so small. I was shocked at how small some of the campaigns were that I thought would be bigger. I mean, typical ones, but it's always tough to hear about candidates who have to do so much. You'd like to see like giant teams behind people, and I feel like maybe not everybody had that this time around. But yeah, that's probably the case in a lot of the unwinnable ridings or the hard races. It's hard to keep your chin up, but today's a tough day for folks to just sit and now they can't do anything. They've just it's out of their hands.
It's just spectator football at this point.
Sometimes it always feels like spectator football.
Fair.
I mean, yeah. If you're looking at sports, if you look at sports, it's definitely you're now the job as the coaches or the trainer is pretty much done. Looking at theater, director is now done. The play is going to go without your help now. There's nothing left for anybody to do except, especially since a lot of us have cast the ballot already. There was no change. We're just waiting to see where this thing is going to land.
Yeah, and so let's look at Atlantic Canada now that let's help explain the ticker. Oh no, Joe, stop updating it.
Quick, stop the count.
Stop the ticker.
Okay. 13 for each of the two major parties. Oh my goodness.
Okay, it's a long night. I can't keep doing this. I'm going to need some.
You cannot.
Maybe I did need it.
Let me tell to everybody right now, don't panic right now. You're not going to survive the night if you are going to. This is still very early.
Talk me down, Joe.
All these ridings this is only a couple of polls that come in. There's only one riding that's been already sort of is no longer leading. I believe I heard this that has been assigned as a winner, and that was for the Liberal. So that one is locked to the Liberal. It's not going to Conservatives.
Okay, then, the ticker comes with a bit of an asterisk.
It does. There's a big asterisk. And all right, ticker to
don't do it, Joe.
Again.
Okay, so Sean,
as
soon as I saw that you were logged in early, I was like, I want to ask him about South Shore St. Margaret's in Nova Scotia. So it was one of the last things I saw on the CBC before I switched over to our feed. And here I thought they had a full slate, or you know what? I don't even know if I bothered to check, but that's something folks try to do, is run a full slate. And there was no NDP. I know you're former, but do you have the scoop?
Yeah.
Why wasn't there an NDP candidate there?
I don't have the poop on that. I mean, I think a lot of the ridings there, like I definitely saw at one point, and I think it was before the nomination papers deadline, so before day 21, that it was a list of all the Nova Scotia ridings and the federal candidates, and the NDP didn't have anybody in half of them almost. Like it was really dramatic. Like the Greens at least had somebody in each of those. But the NDP seemed to be well behind. I mean, I think they caught up a fair bit, and there's definitely some names on ballots with the Greens in Nova Scotia, but
that's not really catching up, though, right? Because you're so far ahead. I was like, some Conservative candidates, and you know, there's probably some in every party, especially incumbents, but there are folks challenging for seats Conservatives that have been campaigning for over a year. Like door knocking, flyers, the whole spiel, like running for it full tilt for almost a year before these folks are like begged to get on the ballot, scrambled to get the signatures. Then it's like, order your signs, raise the money for your signs, order your signs. I mean, they're so far behind the eight ball by that point.
Yeah, and so obviously it privileges the better resourced parties. Like they've got money right away. Like we were still working on signatures for Rana well into week 2. Of the campaign, and so that costs us a lot of time because you can't really raise or spend money until you've got that sorted out. So I think a lot of the smaller parties were caught flat-footed in ways. Like we had inklings it was maybe coming, but it didn't really become apparent until about a week out. That's when I got like the panic. Okay, we need you to be the official agent for this. Like that's when I got that call. So that's when I think go time arose, or maybe the day before. There had been talk of basically they were going to dissolve Parliament because they didn't want to have Mark Carney not be able to appear in question period to answer questions because he didn't have a seat, right? So like they knew the Conservatives were going to make some hay on that, and it was going to highlight the kind of not illegitimate criticisms of like the just picking a prime minister that way with just like a leadership contest. And I'm not aware that there's any reason to not have faith in the integrity of the contest, but it's an unusual way for someone to become prime minister or premier, as in the case of David Eby. So they wanted to avoid that and basically just go, apparently, and that's what kicked it all off. And so, I think a lot of I know there was some topsy-turviness in Halifax, for example, at least with the Greens. Like they were going to run Gadfly Stratton, but it ended up being somebody different, and their name on a ballot, basically. So I'm not fully up to date on what happened there, but interesting. So I don't really know because I thought it wasn't Denise Peterson-Rayfuse. Wasn't she from that area, like Chester?
There's an independent candidate running, but that's not their name. I don't have it pulled up, but there was an independent candidate on the ballot. They are obviously not going to get much of the vote. It was tight. It was 11-11 when I last tuned in that riding. Okay. So any NDP running in that area is likely going to get some flack for splitting the progressive vote. And I did hear from some candidates that they were taking heat from their community, even like the people they may have thought they could have counted on to support them were, irritated or thought they should bow out and pass it on to the next likely winner. And that's got to be real personal because you make yourself so vulnerable when you run as a candidate, right? You ask for big favors, and that's a tough decision to drop out or push through based on your values, especially when all these parties can give you reasons to just not want to support them anyway. Like you're doing it for the team. What team?
Yeah. And supposedly this has a tie-in with the Green parties being chucked off the debate because like this was the there was discussion that maybe some people didn't go all the way through the process who were included in the Green Party's initial list of nominees, like of like, the party had approved them, but they weren't official Elections Canada candidates yet. They hadn't completed the nomination papers. So what I had heard is that a number of people there was a number of people that didn't go ahead for those reasons, for the reasons they were encountering pressure in their communities not to run because of the stakes and the strategic voting stuff and whatever. So that tracks with what I've been hearing too, basically, Jessa. That like the people are even who might otherwise. It's so funny. It's an election that's got record high or potentially record high participation in voting, but in ways it feels so much less democratic. It's such a concentration around the two major parties that like every other thing is just shut out, and everyone's like in like an existential race between people who are too young to remember Stephen Harper and people who were adults when he was prime minister.
Well, he's made a resurgence, but another trend of this campaign is the amount of nominations that didn't happen. So the bulk of candidates appeared to be appointed. And that's not, we hear about it when we're NDPers because it pisses us off, right? We want healthy local races. It usually means it's someone that's favored by the establishment, and that hasn't gone very well for the NDP for a while. But yeah, that really starts to remove the democracy from it. Right? It's like you don't even have real local representation. It's somebody from head office making these critical decisions on who's best to connect with the community, who will resonate there. And that's just something you can't centralize like that. So I've thrown up
too. Like, there's a risk associated with it because like they can blow up in your face. Like it happens all the time where like they pull something and it blows up with the EDA and it hurts them, and like and it's definitely rampant in the.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I was, you know what I mean? But definitely there's they were talking about it on CBC that a lot of that was going on with the Conservatives in Newfoundland and Labrador, where they were more just like there were people who were interested, there were people who should have got a shot and just didn't. They just picked somebody. So it's really in so many cases where it's about the party. And not necessarily the candidate in some of these races, and they're just like they just want someone pliable. They just want someone who's gonna go with the flow. I think in some cases, but yeah. So but it definitely like it adds volatility. It adds the potential for blowback, and potentially like if you don't have people on board, if you haven't got the community on board, then and you're a party that depends on that, because again that's the thing about an election in April, where for the NDP and other smaller parties, like that's volunteers that are out banging those signs in, but the major parties is going to be like a fencing company instead. So they're vastly different circumstances, and even though it feels you scarcely get to the advanced polls, I tried twice and didn't succeed. I voted this morning. I went before the polls opened. But it just doesn't seem very democratic at all. It seems like this.
Welcome to folks that are watching. I see some more people had tuned in. If you could take a second to like the stream, first of all, that really does help boost the algorithm, because Lord knows commies aren't great on the algorithms. And not that we're all commies here. Sorry, Joe, if I'm painting you with a brush that's not. But guilty by association.
Somebody somewhere thinks Joe's a commie.
Yeah, you normally find us here on Fridays unpacking the headlines, but we couldn't help but do the elections this time around. I've got a lot of talk about strategic voting and people using sites to figure out what's the best vote rather than, maybe studying the candidate and the platform. I mean, could it be all malarkey anyway? So you do you. This is one of the tools that a lot of people go to, a lot of the press use as well. Everyone's got their critiques on it. It's just a seat projection. But since we're unpacking Atlantic Canada, specifically Sean is from out east, the 338, and we're not 338 anymore. How many? It's 343. So you need 172 for a majority for folks that are watching the ticker that Joe updates every now and again. Thank you, Joe. So Atlantic Canada there is projected 25 seats for the Liberals, 7 for the Conservatives, and for everybody else. I got to move that or I'm going to knock it over. So, Sean, is this accurate. I have no idea when it comes to Atlantic Canada. I haven't really looked
at I don't have as much knowledge of Atlantic Canada as I do of Nova Scotia, so I certainly focused on that when I was doing some prep. I've basically got every riding in Nova Scotia queued up in a browser tab in the smart voting thing. We can just pay. Am I able to like screen share? Is that a thing I can do on here?
Yeah, look down at. Do you have the present button down there? And you can share. If not, you can share it with Joe, and he can put it up.
Present. Share screen.
And
okay, great. It's got some helpful tips, and then I'm gonna grab.
So. Yeah, I asked you why there was no NDP candidate in South Shore. Was that the only one that didn't have an NDP candidate? And I didn't see a green one there either. I thought they bragged about having a full slate.
I bet they initially did. I bet they had an initial full slate.
They can't call it a full slate if they don't get these people registered. Everyone knew an election was coming. You know, I have in the notes there to talk about strategy, and it seems like you know, the NDP's shifted over time, but they were not prepared for this. And even the Liberals, you know, had a really late candidate in my riding, and they took a long time to nominate someone in Hamilton. Like, if you want to start challenging for seats. But, yeah, do you have, you can share anytime. I'll just take my...
I have it. I can see it at the bottom of the screen. I just don't know if someone else has to...
Sorry.
Oh, you're not allowed to add to the stage.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. So this is probably, actually there was one closer than this. Okay, so this is probably the squeakiest one. This is Acadianapolis, and so Chris D'Entremont is the incumbent. He's been there for a little while, and yeah, a real strategic voting case if ever there was one. Pretty much exactly the same numbers, at least according to this. And again, like the caveat for the viewers at any rate is that these are derived from like applying a formula to national numbers based on the electoral history of the riding, so they're not as precise as like those are the numbers they have, and like they have their kind of like plus or minus margin or 4%. But they're not, you know, they are what they are. They're not a perfect prognosticator of a result, nor is anything really. This is just like smartvoting.ca's best guess. This is what people are telling. This is what smart voting is telling people about the outcome. So that one's probably the squeakiest. And then this one is interesting. So this is an instance in which basically because of the redistricting, two incumbent MPs swapped ridings-ish. So you can see here where Mike Kellaway is the incumbent, but Jaime Batiste is the contender for the Liberals, and that's because Jaime is in the opposite riding, and they both got redistricted, or he got redistricted out of the other one, and the party had to pick one, and they picked Mike Kellaway for the opposing riding.
The party picked or the riding picked?
The party picked, I'm pretty sure. That's what I feel like I even saw that tonight on the CBC broadcast, but. And so we see Alan McMaster here as the Conservative candidate. So he is the former finance minister and deputy premier of Nova Scotia, recently left the provincial government to run federally. Performed well in the debate. I watched most of this debate. The PPC guy was there. It's just such a rogues gallery, right? So it's genuinely weird people. Tons of libertarians in this one too. I keep seeing that there's a libertarian, I think, in this race, if I'm not mistaken. No, not this one. It's a different one in Cape Breton. I thought it was this one though. Anyway, so that's an interesting one to watch, and definitely a squeaker. Then we got, and then so South Shore St. Margaret's. That's all you get apparently. There's a People's Party candidate, and then the Green Party.
That seat was neck and neck last time I checked.
Yeah, and the smart voting numbers certainly hold that up too. So. That's going to be one to watch. This is where Jaime Batiste was, and now Mike Kellaway is running in Cape Breton. Let me have a look at the. Anna Manley did okay in her debate. Not especially strong, but like reasonably strong, even competent sounding. So yeah, that could go either way, I think. So those are kind of the ones to watch, and they get less. I guess that one's a little bit tight too. I don't know a ton about any of these candidates. Larry Duchesne, I know Larry personally. He's a longtime NDP stalwart at the provincial level, and is like, he's given it a go as far as I can tell. I've been seeing his social media, and he's out there doing a thing. So he's not a name on a ballot, but I don't know how serious a campaign it is, and obviously a two-way race between the red and blue. Sean Fraser back in the game after having quit and being called by Mark Carney back into the Liberal Party fold. I had really thought that if Sean Fraser decided to become the leader of the Nova Scotia Liberals, that it would basically be the end of the NSNDP because they would poach back all those voters that they worked so hard to just pick up 3 seats last time. And so good for Claudia Chender and her team that didn't happen, and Sean Fraser is back running federally and looking like he's going to win. Now here's one that is not copacetic with what people are saying at the pundit level, and certainly not what we're hearing from the party. So this is
when he says the party, he means the NDP, even though he's former. It's a habit we can't break.
It is. It's like keep saying us, and it's not us anymore.
Yeah, no, I know. I still do it after all this time. It won't leave you, Sean. It's some sort of curse.
And so this is Lisa Roberts' ride, or the one that Lisa Roberts is running in, and her result with Andy Fillmore previously was quite close, within a 1,000 vote margin. Some pretty staggering fundraising for either campaign, if I recall correctly. I had to look on Wikipedia. It was like up into 6 figures for both of them, like 90-ish K for either the Liberal and the NDP campaigns. And so I feel
good telling some people to just save their money. I mean,
yeah. Well, and I had kind of gotten the impression that in Halifax that they had to an extent, in terms of Halifax just had an abortive by-election. So when Andy Fillmore stepped down to become mayor in like September of last year or whatever, or even earlier than that maybe, that left the seat vacant, and they'd only actually kicked off the by-election maybe 3 weeks before the red drop. So it was called off, and they would have gone right into. So that just would have been a pre-writ canvas with some signage for them, effectively, for all the parties involved. So I don't know who that benefited the most. I don't know if Shannon Nadima is well known. The CPC candidate is some kind of like comms hack for like Loblaws or the Conservative Party or something. So he's not forecast to do well.
That describes Chris Thompson, one of our I'm not going to call him a hack, but the former, that's one of his gigs. So I was like, is that him? He wouldn't do that, would he? That's the former leader of the New Brunswick NDP.
Okay.
A socialist, but head office didn't like that very much.
Yeah, they don't tend to.
That's another story. So have you noticed the ticker? I just wanted to draw attention to it.
So 21 to 11. Well, that's we're hoping for the best, worst thing.
Yes, I do feel people's tension. I kind of get it, but I'm just hoping that people do understand, and I'm not trying to dampen the moment that there's work to do when Carney, or if Carney wins as well. I mean, we're equally as fucked on so many levels, right? Maybe not some other ones, but that doesn't, it shouldn't really give you too much time to breathe. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I saw that Bose wasn't in the list for the leader ridings, and so I pulled it up, and it's one of the next tabs I have up here. So we'll console ourselves in the fact that, the BBC leader is going to lose that nearly ancestral seat in Bose that his dad held for years before he held it. So he that's at least what smart voting is saying is going to happen to Maxime Bernier. So maybe we can.
Oh, Bernier hasn't won his seats in since he left the Conservatives.
Yeah, well, and he ran in a by-election elsewhere too, like in Manitoba, didn't he?
He's trying.
He's trying, but he's trying.
Keep splitting that Conservative vote, pal. Keep at it.
He's it's I'm not sure how to. I try to tell him that it's not us, it's him, and people are just not that into him. But he blocked me, so
the candidate. I've got some interesting info on the local candidate in my riding. So you folks may be aware that there is an incipient fascist active club supposedly that Jeremy McKenzie has started here in Dartmouth called the Second Sons, and so. For the uninitiated, an active club is the sort of new hip, cool way that fascists are trying to legitimize fascist organizing and come up with a post-Proud Boys framework for doing fascist fuckery. And so a notorious local, he's local to the area. I can't believe I've biked past his place probably a number of times. But yeah, so he's known for the guy who was outside of the Joe. I know you know all about him, but in Nova Scotia we know him for being the guy who was harassing Dr. Strang. He's the chief medical officer of health for the province of Nova Scotia during the Rona out here, harassing him at his home. He was up on charges in Cape Breton.
Let me guess, he wasn't harassing him because they felt they hadn't done enough to address COVID.
Certainly not. And he also was up on charges in Saskatchewan for some kind of domestic type of thing, all of which he beat. And it sort of looks as if he rolled over on the Coutts 4, basically. Like I've had people assert that to me on Twitter previously. But anyway, so he started this fascist group, and like a bunch of their people have been showing up at candidate forums. And so we did one in Eastern Passage. So I've been going with my candidate to these forums. And so I'm meeting the other people. I'm meeting Darren Fisher, who's gonna there's no strategic vote in my riding at all. Like Darren, if every voter of every other party all voted for the same party, it would be less than half of what Darren has right now. So that there's no, there's no argument out there for that. But there are these like Second Sons affiliated people like Morgan May and Riley Murphy, who's a mayoral candidate who was caught posting some pretty fashy stuff. They keep showing up and being kind of lurking in the back of the room, and they're talking up the PPC candidate, and they seem clearly chummy with them, and it's all quite icky. And at the end of the one in Eastern Passage, unbeknownst to my candidate and I, Ron Zaman, because we both did the long goodbye and we didn't actually see it happen. It took us too long to leave, but Darren Fisher was trying to leave, and they apparently confronted him as he was leaving the place, like a bunch of these Second Sons affiliated people. I don't know if Jeremy was there, but
Morgan May was there. I mean, that's his girlfriend. So
yeah, did you see any footage of that? Did you see? I had no idea it happened until we got the notification that another forum just canceled outright because it was
I'm not surprised.
Community center, and they couldn't. I don't think there was a specific threat it was going to happen at their forum, but they just couldn't. They weren't in a position to do anything about it, so they elected not to have their forum. Which is a shame, because it was just to sit at tables and talk to the candidates thing that's kind of cool and community oriented. Mm-hmm. It's really a shame. And then at the one afterwards, Darren had a security attaché. You can apply to. I've got the form around here somewhere. You can apply if you're a candidate to Elections Canada to have a security detail provided if you've been threatened in the course of your candidacy. And so there was a plainclothes Elections Canada security guy in the room. There were two cops that appeared at the end of the night. Again, Riley Murphy and Morgan May were both there. So things are getting, very, very chummy with Michelle Lindsay, the PPC candidate, also notable for her direct participation and speaking at the anti-Soji rally that happened here in Halifax in October of 23. So there's all kinds of icky stuff going on in the periphery of the political process in that riding.
Every time I've looked up at the individual PPC candidates and get some backgrounds on them, I'm like, there's always some awkward stuff in these. And it gives you a real sense of it. One of the gentlemen that attended a lot of the Palestinian rallies, he's got a big sign, and he's very pro-Palestine, so that's kind of cool. But he's also very anti-Semitic. Not so cool. So if you're like, we like.
And he's running for the PPC?
Oh, of course he's running for the PPC.
Of course he is.
I'm so confused.
Jessa, why are you looking surprised?
I mean, on the Palestine question, though, not all the other stuff.
It's just the thing, though. Yeah. One thing I've noticed, especially at that anti-Soji rally, a lot of the same people from that rally. There was a big Muslim contingent on the anti-Soji side, on the opposite side of the police line from us. And a lot of those same people were directly involved in a lot of the Palestine organizing, right? At the beginning, a lot of them fell off afterwards, but they were those same people. I went back and looked at the photos. I was like, oh my God, that's that, and so they were directly involved. And so there's this idea, I think, and this strategy on the part of the PPC. They're trying to beat the racism allegations. They're trying to legitimize what they're doing. And they're just trying to seek some kind of allies, like any shelter in the storm kind of thing, you know what I mean? So they think they found a synchronicity on the anti-Soji thing, and they think that they are going to tap into, because the thing is, the faction have been weaving the word Zionism into the rest of their nonsense for a long time now. There's an acronym they'll use, the ZOG or whatever, Zionist Occupied Government.
ZIO, actually.
It's coded. That's where it gets even a little murky because it's a truth sandwich, right? They nestle that stuff in with the nonsense. But yeah, so there's an extent to which I think that they think they're going to find common cause with Palestine organizers. I think they see an activated group of people, and they've had what they might feel is some success in reaching out to literally some of the same individuals and finding common cause with them. And finding this plausibility of we can't be racist. Look at all these Muslims. Look at
Absolutely. I'll even point out too. I'll even point out to something in regards to that. But before we do that, I just wanted to let everybody know we've now getting some reports from Quebec, because obviously we now have
All
a
right.
Bloc Québécois riding showing up in the count. So there's some poll results coming in from there. But yes, I recall the Billboard Chris showing up in Ottawa back June 9th in 2023. He was actually recently here last Friday. I wasn't able to attend, but he came returned. Much smaller group on both sides this time. But when he showed up in in June 20, back in 2023, it was a bit of a surprise for a lot of people because he had a large group, and this was when a large group led by Kamal El Sheikh, and this was a large Muslim group that was in there supporting this anti-LGBTQ, anti-SOGI, and working very well with Chris Elston, Billboard Chris. And this was fine for quite a while until, again, Palestine kind of broke some of these alliances quite a bit, because Kamal El-Sheikh, while he is very much horrible in regards to anti-LGBTQ and very much, and he's also, I think, he was also attempting to try to run as this PPC candidate, and he got rejected. But rather quickly, he also started finding he had some problems when he was trying to talk to some of these groups, including some of these guys from the Wellington Street Regulars, like Chris Dacey, as well as all the other ones, because they're all very much Zionist. And so this is where we were saying, like, and I remember my friend Dina, she was quite adamant when she was yelling at these at the girl Muslim, because she's Muslim herself. She's like, you're standing with a bunch of people that will drop you like a rock the minute you serve your purpose. And they were absolutely dropped, and they were completely replaced because, again, they only cared for them while they agreed. But as soon as they were gone, they're calling them all horrible things. Those people that were marching with them are in the Palestinian marches, and they're yelling at them now. I'm like, have you learned it now? Have you seen it? They never cared about you to begin with.
Yeah, and there was kind of
let's stop giving air to the right wing and talk politics again.
Sure.
I just like having like in Dartmouth, we're having like a oh crap, what do we do about rising fascism moment that's a little bit accelerated, I think, for us. So it's on our minds lately. So I apologize.
No, it's okay. It's just it's some of these PPC they try to make themselves out, I think, to be also more important than they are, especially when you're talking about elections and their likelihood of getting any kind of traction in the electoral sphere. There has been talks, even, we saw the Conservative Party starting to splinter apart a little bit near the end of the campaign, where folks were openly criticizing Pierre Poilievre or his strategists' ideas of how to run the campaign. And, you just saw kind of, Tim Houston was there out kind of showcasing himself a little bit, and folks were joking, oh, he's already making a run for that. And Doug Ford's been rumored to be interested in that job because Poilievre is kind of he really fucked this one up, right? I mean, I don't know
before we jumped on the thing, I saw on CBC, Jason Kenney was there commenting, and I'm wondering, he might also
and Randall Garrison too.
Randall Garrison.
When I saw that, I heard him first, and I was like, I switched over to see, and I'm like, oh, of all the people you could have called into your studio, I mean, like. But
they
let
it be. Smell the blood in the water. They're all convinced that Pierre, like, let's be honest here, a lot of them are looking at this like Pierre is not going to survive.
Well, here's the other thing too. Like, I don't think I don't think the conservative premiers, especially the more savvy ones like Ford and Houston, I think that they realize it's not in their best interest to have a conservative federal government, because there's nobody to blame things on. You can't punt it up and say, you voted liberal and that's why crime is bad. You voted liberal and that's why the healthcare system is bad. There's nowhere to put that now. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's all the same thing. And so, like, which means that, like, the reverse effect kicks in, and now, like, the bad decisions the federal government makes, the provincial government now wears. And so, like, I think there's tactical reasons that having the stupid pissing contest between the layers of government that results in things like Jordan's principle it's kind of like it's coming into play in terms of they don't want a conservative. They want to stick it to the Liberals and make political hay by sticking it to the Liberals.
The big one also in Ontario absolutely makes total sense, because for Ontario, it's always been a reverse bellwether of the federal government. So if the feds are liberal, Ontario is going to be conservative. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's Doug Ford's best interest. Like, yeah, we got to keep those liberals there, because if not, I'm going to get voted out in 4 years after I just fooled everybody to come out to vote in the middle of February.
And again, that's that same, like, the weather thing I talk about of, like, it's volunteers versus employees. Like, you can send, if you got like enough budget for polecats, you can say you'll send them out in that. And the conservatives won't care about that. They'll still give them their branded conservative anoraks and send them out. But yeah, you're asking people to like take time off work to do that and do it, when they're trying to figure out childcare. Like, it's just a non-starter.
Oh, yeah. I had that discussion with my partner. He was talking about polling locations, and they should just have this one rather than we go to a different place for advanced polls and a different place for regular polls. And I was like, you don't understand how big of a problem accessibility to the polls is. It's for advanced polls, there aren't as many because it's open for 4 days. It's just they just have one location for a few polls, right? Many, compared to what you'll have on E-Day. And even that's not sufficient, because I say, they used to be in the bottom of some apartment buildings. Now they're not. There used to be some in, long-term care homes.
In some places, they still have them, but you're
yes,
right.
It's like hit and miss. Yeah. So, like, there's key locations in my riding that, has been rejigged as well, that it's, for sure that there's probably nobody from this area even voting because of how far that apartment building has to go to its nearest poll. And the amount of time on that poorer people tend to have, Sean's mention of childcare, that plays into all kinds of things to people's ability to get to the polls. So, yeah, but advanced polls... we talked a little bit about this on Friday. I know I've got Quebec's kind of projections up there, but the advanced polls blew records out of the water, right? 7.2 something or 7.3 million, and on day
7.8 million, I believe it was.
Is that what it finally was? Because on day one, 600,000 more people voted on day one of this election than they did in the 2021 election. And I still do. My theory is a lot that is a mix of, conservatives are traditionally the ones that pull the vote best on the advanced polls. They just have higher resources, so they can afford door knockers for both advanced polls and E-Day, and people pay people to put them there, and all the other ways you can pull the vote. So they tend to do a very good job around advanced polls. But this Carney fever that we experienced, like the shift in the campaign that happened when Carney became the candidate, like officially was going to be who he'd be up against, then I think that the buzz, right, that we're seeing around this election led people to kind of stream to those advanced polls. And when you're looking at the leaders' ridings, I had a little ticker for this so folks can see some of the numbers that, sorry about your ticker, Joe, for a second. Okay. But if you see the leaders' ridings, typically they're all very high. I mean, the highest one was Carleton. I mean, not only do you have like 1 million candidates there, but they don't want to lose this. This would be absolutely horrific to lose this, and the Liberals have poured a lot of resources. I even saw progressive people like saying, go donate to, the Liberal candidate in Pierre's riding. Let's overturn that. It's like, save your money. If you have spare money like that, there's like 1 million other places that could use it a lot more effectively. But this is like just a gripe that we have. Just same way I want University Rosedale. I want Chrystia Freeland to lose her seat. She's not going to. And Pierre Poilievre, I don't think is going to lose his seat. But Jagmeet very well might. Elizabeth May lose her seat. But it was the NDP incumbent ridings, a lot of them, that had low voter turnout. Like Burnaby Central did not have a lot of people turn out to vote. Nikki Ashton's riding is notoriously low in turnout anyway. It's very rural riding.
Huge, and there's a lot of really disconnected, almost outport communities up there too. There's there's communities I think that are only reachable by airplane or by boat kind of thing. So yeah, there's major challenges. Yeah, with accessibility to the polling stations in a number of senses. I was talking to some of the Elections Canada folks, just because you mentioned accessibility to the polls, it's something I think you could look at in two different meanings of the word accessible, because they've changed the the barrier standards for the buildings, they can't have stairs, it's got to be accessible for people. And the built environment in Canada and rural Canada especially is absolute hell on wheels for that stuff. You know what I mean? Even in the urban environment, the built environment, it's hard. At least in Nova Scotia, you almost have to go to a community college or some kind of purpose-built community building, government building, to find a shared meeting space that's accessible to chair users and whatnot. So that shrunk the number of places they can use. So your basement, your down one flight of stairs basement apartment becomes non-viable. And because of the time of year being so close to Easter, a ton of the places they use are churches, and the fact that it happened that Easter was right close to the polling time blew out a bunch of venues. Apparently, I was from what the returning officer was telling me down at the central returning office here in Dartmouth. So yeah, a lot of challenges with venues, and clearly not enough of them out there for people to get to the polls.
No, and it's hard to even sometimes to get schools to agree to do it, because they'll be in and out of the school when students are there. So that takes convincing by Elections Canada. And yeah, my riding's notorious for having not enough accessible buildings to keep up with the regulations of Elections Canada. And Lord knows, Conservatives will never make it easier for folks to vote. So, and nor will anyone really seem to prioritize improving that process very much. But I thought, we'll see if our predictions are right in terms of what the advanced polls mean. But it was kind of, Elizabeth May, even, I was watching the CBC, she had a decent turnout in her riding for advanced polls, but she is still out there campaigning this evening, right up until the polls close. She's not getting any rest. There's no confidence that they're going to be able to secure that seat. And, there's some other notable ridings I think maybe we can go through. If anybody else want to chime in, who's watching, chime in from your local riding. Tell us, you don't have to tell us what it is. You might out yourself geographically, but if you don't mind, who's the projected winner there? Are you happy about it? Are there notable races that you want us to kind of look at? We won't have poll numbers for a lot of them, but as Joe said, Quebec is coming in. The ticker's kind of stuck at 20, 21.
It is right now. Yeah, it's kind of stuck right now. It seems to be holding its number. I have the feeling it's just there's just a certain kind of pause. I'm kind of surprised to see a BQ riding to kind of show up, because again, the polls in Quebec and Ontario are not closing till 9:30. If I remember correctly.
Some places span 2 time zones. That was one of the notes on. Let me show that while we're talking about Quebec just briefly before. I don't know. Does anybody know what's the ridings to watch here in Quebec?
Trois-Rivières, I think, was supposed to be some kind of bellwether that was a pretty close 3-way. That's anyone's game between the Liberals bloc and Conservatives, if I recall correctly. Outremont, of course, is Jonathan Pedneau from the Green Party's riding. He's not favored to win there, that I understand.
No. Especially according to 338 here, it has the Liberals picking up seats and the bloc losing a considerable amount of seats. Again, this is just projections. It's not based on local races. It doesn't have a lot of local specifics built into their model. So it's just what happened last time, what's likely to happen this time. And they've got it. There's that toss up. Very few though.
Yeah, there's three ridings in Quebec. I'm watching myself. Outremont is exactly one of them, which is going to be for Jonathan Pedneau to find out if he gets the Green Party leadership there. The second one is Bredeuil-Chambly, and that is for for Yves-François Blanchet of the Bloc Québécois. He's favored to still get a seat. So it'll be interesting.
They're calling Outremont as a liberal safe, but
Yeah.
when the organizing for Palestine, we haven't really talked about too much, good stuff. They are very strong in Montreal. Outremont has a incredible branch of the Palestinian Solidarity Network. And I wonder in some of these ridings where the voting bloc has grown considerably through that kind of mobilization, if it's going to play into the vote. I mean, you want to opine on, there was the Vote Palestine campaign. So the last episode that we dropped for Blueprints of Disruption was was with the Palestinian youth movement, talking about the Vote Palestine campaign and the strategy behind it. I mean, they're under no illusions that it's going to, whoever wins this is going to decide the outcome of, Palestine, let alone some of the campaigns around it, like arms embargo now is one example. But it did. I wonder if there's some local candidates that felt the heat and whether any of the races will be influenced by it, whether the Liberals will be punished in the same way the Democrats were punished in the United States for continually supporting the genocide. Either of you think it played into this election? I mean, we only had really one moment in the debates that was memorable, if you're talking about Palestine, was when Jagmeet tried first and then was successful in getting Mark Carney to admit that it is a genocide. That is how low the bar is, people.
But he never did it. Sorry, unless I miss another point, because in both debates, Carney never admitted that it was a genocide.
Okay, yeah, he did. You're right. He did kind of. He said, "I acknowledge." Yes, you're right. In true political fashion, no one ever did get a clear answer.
Yeah. He was very dodgy in regards to that. Jagmeet was quite good in regards to coming straight towards him and saying, like, "Will you call it out?" And Carney just did completely walk around the whole question. He says, "Yeah, it's a horrible thing," so we acknowledge that what was going on, but he would not take the extra steps of saying it's a genocide.
I will say, as someone who's checking the official email address of the candidate, there is a ton of direct email lobbying, counter lobbying against the Vote Palestine platform happening on the back end. So all of the NDP and Green candidates are getting spammed with sometimes unsigned emails asking them to back down off the pledge or to ask them to change it to remove the arms embargo. And
imagine,
right?
They need more bombs.
And what's the thing that's going about that is that the terms of the Vote Palestine pledge are quite mild. For me, things like expelling the ambassador, withdrawing recognition of the state of Israel, total trade embargo, full trade embargo. The measures that are proposed in that are quite mild. They're really, really not a big deal, and it's wild to see the absolute caterwauling about but yeah, there was a ton of so basically I've got a whole system of chutes and ladders in the email that's funneling things into because there's so much email lobbying going on, and some of it's super niche industry stuff, like the cannabis industry, or writing them a pointed email or whatever, or sending a questionnaire. But yeah, there was a ton of stuff. I had to write an autoresponder for people asking my candidate to sign the Vote Palestine pledge, basically. So I have because they're sending a canned message, and so I have a thing set up to send a canned response when they do it, which means they get a response right away.
They're lucky they're getting a response. It's sometimes some campaigns are skeleton crews. I imagine there's a lot of candidates that actually didn't get on the pledge, on the Vote Palestine pledge, simply because they don't have time to check their email. Some candidates are just running the show themselves. They are getting their friends to put up signs, and, they hardly get to sit down. So, and I remember being a candidate and getting so many requests, not just about, actually, I probably didn't get any about Palestine because this was back in 2018 or something, 19. But, every medical condition has an association that wants to know your position on, maybe the funding related to it. every cause you could possibly imagine has not just a petition, or like maybe a survey for you to fill out so you get a scoreboard or you get, you know, an endorsement from them. But then, they're triggering all of these other emails that bombard you with the same request and making it come from the constituent themselves. I wanted to flag the comment there that I saw in No, I Did Not, to answer M's question. Did you know that disabled humans couldn't vote till the 1990s? We were talking about accessibility. What? As a disabled person myself, I'm horrified. We were talking about the autism database as well last week on Friday's Rabble Rants. RFK's attempt to, you know, track autistic people and whatnot, but good Lord. I mean, why am I not surprised at the level of ableism? It seemed like Sean wasn't really surprised. I heard Joe go, I wasn't surprised, like by the blowback that folks get on Palestine, because it's like you can just, anything less than, you know, full-throated support of Zionism gets you a fucking email and like on a list. And so, the blowback is just constant. But geez, did either of you know this, that disabled people couldn't vote until the 1990s?
I don't know about Canada, but this I just did a quick search because that's what I do, and it looks like this has to do with the U.S. and it has to do with the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, and this is where they were able to get those safeguards, help America vote, and everything else. So there was so I'm not too sure in regards to the history in regards to Canada and disability and the ability to vote, but this is, again, not to say it's not an important thing to understand and know in regards to be done, but this is, though, very much an American thing.
And they definitely are running into barriers in terms of like finding the appropriate rooms to deliver like a fully accessible. It's wild. Like once you start, like I was on the accessibility committee of the NSNDP for a while, and once you have to start thinking about that stuff on a regular basis, it really sets in. It's like, holy mackerel! Like there's just like massive, like when you start thinking about like Halifax is full of split entries, right? Like the split entry, like that's what I live in, is a split entry home. They were all the rage here, and they're I guess they're very space efficient, and so like, but they're just fundamentally inaccessible. You know what I mean? Like just reams and reams and reams of housing that like it cannot be rehabilitated. Like there's just no way to make it accessible. I don't think you'd have to build a whole crazy ramp around the back or something.
Sorry, I realized that noise in my ear was Ash joining the green room there. So we're going to add her to the stage, and I did really want to check in with Ash today too, because she has been our semi in-house. I mean, you've been on the Rants quite a few times now. Expert on Carney, like everything you probably didn't want to know about Carney, but should. And so I want to definitely, how are you doing on this, what could be a stressful day for some people?
I feel fine. I don't know. I feel like the outcome of this election was predicted. It's in the stars, you know? I don't know. I'm not gonna be surprised at all by the outcome of this election.
Are you predicting a Carney landslide?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But conservative doesn't matter. It's either Carney conservative or Poilievre conservative. So we're gonna get a con government regardless.
Yeah, you're definitely not. Hopefully you're not the only person that feels that way. I mean, I'm with you, but I've seen some reactions. Like, I was worried at first that this Carney fever was just fooling a lot of people. But I think the longer he was on the campaign trail, the more people started to ask questions about Carney. And hopefully that better prepares them if what you say is true and we do get a Carney majority, that I mean, that'll put the fight into the streets, right? With a Liberal majority and the NDP holding no sway this time, likely.
Yeah.
Anybody else disagree with Ashley? Like, anyone want to get into a fight with her here? Do we all think it's going to be a Carney majority?
But I think it'll be a minority. I think it'll be a Liberal minority government.
Really?
I don't think that. That's what I've been calling for a while now, so we'll see what happens.
You got to hold to it. You can't switch on E-Day now.
Oh no, I have to own it. I have to like whatever the ante is. I have to commit to it, I suppose. But that's what I've been saying for a while. Is a Liberal minority. It's hard to know with the Liberal vote efficiency. and how it plays out, because that's always because so much of the national numbers are based on the raw vote, and like it just doesn't pan out that way because so much of that conservative vote is concentrated, of course, out west. And that's going to be the plot twist is when we stop seeing Ontario and we start seeing the western provinces, and like we start saying that, oh god, that's when the balance is going to correct a little bit, and it's going to be right up until the end when we see BC, which I think a lot of people are treating as the sort of battleground of like what's going to happen, who's going to prevail. And BC is a weird political outlier anyway. Like their Liberal Party was not.
Their votes don't even end up counting. Like the poor things were all at home in bed knowing the winner, and they're like, but I voted too. Stupid Ontario. Mind you, 3 out of the 4 heads here are all from Ontario, so obviously it's
weighted panel.
Yeah, it's proportional. This is proportional representation.
The Laurentian elite.
Do you think the Liberals will ever give us electoral reform? Is that like one of the little things?
They're never going to do that. Absolutely
never.
Not. Like I just
Hang
said,
on, I've got a clip about that actually caused a lot of shit, and this goes with in regards
we like to cause shit. Roll it, Joe.
Absolutely.
Oh no,
yeah,
you're not gonna.
Yes.
My blood pressure.
yes. So everybody's blood pressure is about to explode, I think.
Oh, God.
Need some
So
water.
this caused quite a bit of kerfuffle. Particularly, I've been in a lot of debate spaces and discussion spaces, as Sean has observed me. And this particular one went across, and I went around and I'm going to play the clip first, and then I want to talk about it because this has been kind of a weird one, and you'll understand in a moment. But this also ties
I bet you some people
are
they know exactly what you're about to run.
Yeah,
Suspense is killing
a lot of people, because again, this all comes back to the whole idea. The Liberals have kind of said they're open to discussion of electoral reform. Here's the clip, and this is towards Jagmeet Singh as a question by a reporter.
I'm watching
Mark
Sean for a
Carney
blind
said
react.
This morning, in response to a question, that he would be open to electoral reform only after the Trump crisis is dealt with and other priorities. Can you give your reaction to that? And would it be a red line for your support for his government?
I say this with respect and a little bit sadly, but never trust a liberal.
We told you that like fucking 4 years ago.
My response to this was never trust an orange liberal. This is the thing is like vote efficiency is a signature liberal electoral strength. They were never going to do that. There must have been I bet there was panic when that came out among certain like the electoralist crowd and his party, just like because it's how they won. Like it's what kept them in power for the last 10 years. I mean, they're not gonna there's no way unless if they were now where they were a year ago in the polls, maybe, because then they would benefit from it, right? Like then it would make tactical sense to do it, because they probably pick up a few more seats with those kinds of numbers, and they'd be rebuilding a very broken party again. Like they were going to be rebuilding from potentially a complete wipeout a year ago. So then it might have worked, but now with the resurgent Liberal Party and they're poaching all those the fair-weather liberals from the NDP, forget about it. There's no way.
Joe, can you throw up that photo that kind of goes with this story?
Which one?
Of the Facebook post that was removed.
Yes. Give me a
because
moment
I think
here.
it plays into, talking about the NDP strategy, but don't worry, Ashley, we are coming back to Carney because I want to talk about, Sean mentioned Trump's crisis, and people are going to cut Carney still a lot of slack because we're in this crisis. So I definitely like to talk about that next, but I need to shit on Jagmeet first for sure, because that statement alone makes you look like an idiot. I know you've been critical of the Liberals and saying you had to fight them here for every inch that you got, but you really did kind of tell your members to trust them. But then when you pair that with the statement Joe is frantically looking for, where I won't make you wait for it, but he says he admits that the deal he made with the Liberals and the tack that he took going into this election would decimate his party. And it's I love my party, but I love my country more. What the fuck is that? Is he just forgetting that it's not a club that he runs, that it's supposed to represent an ideological position on the Canadian political spectrum? That he has a responsibility of the Overton window at all? Like, he is fully telling people that it was just a partisan strategical game, and then there absolutely he sees himself as a liberal, but and that he was happy that, not happy, but more than willing to let the party just be destroyed, as though it was just like some people, that had gathered, or like his favorite sports team, and to take it this, like, I'm going to save Canada along with Carney mantra isn't going to help us at all down the road. He was the final nail in the coffin. Mulcair started really spewing neoliberal. It all started with Leighton. I hate reminding people with that. Sometimes I skip it because it really crushes people. But Mulcair is the one they remember who was really like, I'll balance the budget. Like, I'm an open liberal. And we've seen him now. And losing seats. And Jagmeeta's just steadily lost seats as well. And but he was the final nail in the coffin. Like, he came at a political moment where so much could have been done with the left, and instead he actively blended them into officially becoming liberals. So there's the statement there. It's too tiny for me to actually read.
Oh, I can read it for you guys.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. As I'm seeing it in the full size. While we could have won lots of seats, it would have meant a Pierre Poilievre majority Conservative government. And I could not stomach that, Singh said, making the argument that an election would have jeopardized progress on pharmacare deals and dental care expansion. I love my party. I care deeply about it. I want us to win. I want us to up our seats. I know we're good for people, but in that moment, I made a decision for the interest of the country ahead of my party. And that was a decision I made wide-eyed, and I stand by my decision. I stand by that decision.
A lot of I's. Like, when I'm writing, I try to take them out as much as possible. I know it's a habit we do when we talk, but what do you mean you made the decision? Like, that is a big deal for you to openly admit that you went against what most of your membership would have suggested. They could have told you long ago that you can't trust liberals. You knew you couldn't trust liberals. And I think, like, in my notes there, I tried to come up with like what the NDP strategy was, and it just like changed so often during the campaign that I couldn't put my finger on it. Like, they were just fucking scrambling, and even the strategic voting to like spend resources and time. I hate strategic voting. I don't really want to get into it. I'll let you folks talk about it if you want, but I think it's ridiculous. But JB, I'm sorry if I get their name wrong.
Yep,
JB puts together a website, smart.ca.
Smartvoting.ca, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And
I just showed you 10 tabs worth of it.
Yeah. But, and so I don't agree with all the suggestions in there either. You know what I mean? Like, if you're telling me to vote for an apartheid candidate, like, fuck off. That's not strategic at all for me. But, it's a tool, and they spent so many resources trying to discredit the idea of strategic voting, but then, like, this person in particular, had candidates dox him, had just, almost made a little mini campaign around smearing that work. Don't you have better things to do? You do. That's a rhetorical question. You absolutely do. And so then only to really kind of embrace strategic voting in the last few days, where they're like, here's the exact ridings we absolutely need you to vote in to secure NDP seats. And so they were into strategic voting.
Well, this is where it gets even more messed up, because strategic voting was based on the model that was done by JB with Canadian Poly as well as other people. They have an AI model.
It's something we've been doing for years.
Absolutely, the idea of strategic voting is not unique. His implementation of it is he's got his own model, he's got AI, and he's got everything else that's being involved to try to make that more effective. But you're right. The concept of strategic voting has been around for a while. He's just put a name to it, a face, or say his face behind it. They've got a structure. They had it out. They started this out during the Ontario election, where they brought it out and they offered strategic voting there. obviously didn't work too well because we still got Doug Ford, unfortunately, in there. But they were able to test their models and do their work from there, and then they expanded over to the federal. And with a bit of work, they were able to actually get, the most important part, which was kind of a struggle with smart voting, which is they didn't have as much reach back then fast enough because Doug Ford's election came in and went fast. But this time they were able to get a little bit more, push to get the information out. There was, and again, I mean, we could start with smart voting, but let's be honest here. Smart voting was not the only one that was also effective in regards to this, and we'll get to more in there.
We don't know if they were effective yet, right? Like that's going to be a whole post-analysis. Someone out there, Christo has definitely got a beef with the strategic smart voting. I see him going riding by riding to prove if it helped or hurt the cause. Because that's still, it's all speculative. That's why strategic voting, I find, is like kind of useless. You're relying on a lot of speculation rather than values. It kind of takes, it's almost like just, that Price is Right game where the mice race across the track, right? You just like pick a color. You just pick a color. You don't have any other information on these mice. They're rigged from the beginning because it's a show, and they just go. Someone pulls the trigger, and you have no say over the matter. That's how I feel like strategic voting is.
I mean, so could we have a better thing than strategic voting? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Something as simple as ranked ballot completely demolishes strategic voting. And again,
but we can't do that. Like, what can we do as voters, right? We can demand electoral reform, but we're not going to get it. Like, strategic voting is something that's like accessible to people, or it seems to be. But yeah, I mean, they're not doing bad work.
There's one point I wanted to bring up that makes the NDP's decision to pursue the course they did with smartvoting.ca even stranger and even more ill-advised. I've got a screen share up there, Joe, if you want to throw it up.
Sure.
Thank you.
There we go.
So here's the thing. So here's the without the strategic vote. So you see the NDP ends up with 9 seats, and if you accept these numbers, and that's I think that's kind of the central problem. The whole thing is, do you accept these numbers? Supposedly the NDP benefit from this by 4 seats, and so do the Green Party. And in fact, basically everyone wins except for the Conservatives, or that's what's supposed to happen. But there's even more. There's another entire layer of statistical magic involved in deriving this count, I think, than there is in the outcome of. I think that's basically they've identified a strategic candidate in each riding where strategic voting is applicable, and then that's what these are based on. So yeah, highly conjectural, but yeah, even if you accept these numbers, it still looks like a good idea for the NDP to not burn what remains of their social capital online. But we can't stop them from doing that because they're just so determined to do it. There's no stopping them. They just keep going. It's TikTok credit. They lit it on fire with the Jessica Wetz thing, completely torched it.
It's like their social media team was working against themselves. But let's, I brought Ashley into the studio because I definitely want to talk, especially if everyone's kind of on the same page that Carney will likely be our next prime minister. Maybe let's talk a little bit about their strategy, but I harken back
how excited Ashley's going to be.
As Carney as PM, I mean, she'll be very useful. That is for sure. If Carney doesn't get in, what are you going to do with all these facts in your head, Ashley? Like,
they're rent-free.
You have to write the alternate biography for Carney, right? The biography he should have wrote. But one of the things that I harken back to when he was first anointed PM, sorry, I know Joe doesn't like that because we're playing into right-wing talking points, but he changed up his cabinet a little bit. Right? And that really upset some people. I am one of them. He got rid of the Minister for Disability. He got rid of the Minister of Labor. No, he didn't fucking roll it into something else. I don't want to hear that shit. That was already an employment portfolio. You can't blend in labor with another just employment portfolio. That's not the same thing. Unionized workforces aren't the same as just jobs. Either way. And some of the grace that was given to him, I know, Ashley, you are not going to be one of those people, but was that, and he even said, and someone's already quoted him today, I can't remember who it was, where, once the crisis is over, once the Trump crisis is over, what is that, 4 years, or once you've tamed him, because I don't see that happening, but he'll do this, that, and the other thing, right? So some folks thought, okay, well, this is his wartime cabinet. These are permanent changes. And we've seen what other governments have tried to get away with under this Trump crisis. What do you think, Ash, is going to be Carney's... Stop it. Seriously now. What do you think Carney's priorities are going to be? What is he going to try to get away with under this crisis? And I use quotations because I feel like we're always going to be in a crisis. Like, what is it? The tariffs, his threat of annexation. I mean, who's to say any of this is going to pass?
Yeah. I mean, he's already lining all of his advisory boards with just like American, profiteers. Like he's got like people from Palantir on his advisory board. He's got people from BlackRock on his advisory board. Like he's already completely entrenched himself. I mean, he's always been entrenched in the American oligarchy, but he is a Wall Street banker. And Wall Street bankers are American intelligence. They are. That's what our good old intelligence agency is. It's Wall Street and the mob. Anyways, I think he's going to just mimic his government to look like the American government. He's already got like a transformation entity that he baked into his new into his cabinet, his wartime cabinet, right? Very similar to what Elon Musk has. He's already talking about efficiency. He's using all those trigger words. I think he's going to align himself very firmly with the American administration, and then try to pretend like he's doing something good for Canada. But really, he's just making sure that whatever their priorities are can be extended to Canada. And I have no doubt that he is, like I've said many times, he is the American's choice for prime minister, 100%.
I'm going to be devil's advocate. I'm not. Yeah. But, Carney is out there saying absolutely not, Ash. Our relationship with the United States, he's talking to you. He's talking directly to you. The United States our relationship is never going to be the same. It's changed forever. We are going to realign with Europe. He said this in the debate. You don't believe him?
No, I mean,
we're not going to become financially independent of the United States all of a sudden.
Yeah. Is he going to become financially independent from the United States? That's the real question here.
We'll never know. No, he will have to eventually release his shit, right? Like, no?
Yeah, well, that's why I think he put all his stuff in a blind trust, is so that we could not see how much of his money is tied up in the war machine or tied up in American war, the war military.
Trump did the same thing.
Yeah, 100%. It's the way that they do it. So, I mean, you put all your money in offshore accounts. That's what they do. But Mark Carney's ties to like all of his wealth, all of his influence, all of it comes from the same people who are in charge of the Trump administration. Like he's 100% tied to Peter Thiel. He's 100% tied to Elon Musk. He's tied to the Bronfman family. Like these are the people who are funding. So unless Mark Carney intends on cutting all ties with the Bronfman family, who literally control the Liberal Party of Canada, right? They are the chief financial officer. They are their main funders. Unless he plans to cut ties with this family who gave him his job at Brookfield Asset Management and gave him all of his money, there is no way that Canada is going to divide itself from the United States. Mark Carney's priorities are the same as Donald Trump's.
And the funny thing is that, like, when you talk to conservatives about this online, my favorite. And so, Ash, I don't know if you've read Mark Carney's book, but I keep having,
one more person says that to me. Didn't you read his book?
Conservatives keep telling me, like, I don't know why these conservatives are hell-bent on selling me Mark Carney's book, but they keep trying.
Yeah.
And my favorite is just a perfect conspiracy theory of conservatives, that Mark Carney is a secret communist.
Oh no.
my God.
No. How could
Oh yeah,
two
yeah.
people read the same book and come away with two such that's how
It's. I mean,
Ash, you really do need to write a book.
They do.
Because
Oh my God. Like,
If you want them to
people are so
read the
stupid.
book, it's going to have to be a picture book. Trust me. These guys, again,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
convinced. Okay, there's some people that are convinced that Carney is a communist, that he's going to turn everything into a big socialist system. I'm like, have you?
Oh my God. That would be a dream, but it's certainly not reality.
Yeah.
why
but
does that stick? Like, Ash, you've got so much shit on him. Like, I can even see the way the body language changes in people when they hear that, those connections, and they're public connections. Why isn't this been a talking point at all on the campaign, these ties? Like, why hasn't, the NDP, we know why they didn't jump on it, because Jagmeet's just admitted he wanted to hand the election over to the Liberals, and now he's just begging for a few crumbs at the very end. But how is this not more openly challenged? And because no one wants to hear what you're saying right now. I mean, they're going to want to hear it tomorrow if he's PM. Won't you feel freer talking about it? Like, you maybe won't feel so much shit in the comments because, like, oh, you're just helping the Conservatives win by shitting on Carney. But, like, these are some really obvious connections that discredit what he's telling people. But at the same time, he is telling people he's going to bring in austerity. He doesn't use the A word, but he says cut government spending, and he's going to cut taxes. And so there's people arguing with me online that he wouldn't dare impose austerity during a recession or with this level of inflation. And be like, but that is what he's promising. People don't want to see the truth with Carney at all.
Well, the thing
there's very much a tunnel vision.
Yeah, and like the thing is that like he's also talking about bringing in AI, which is also like a key priority for the technocrats and the Trump admin. Right? These are like all of the things he has said aloud on the campaign trail are fully aligned with the Trump administration, which apparently is the key priority for Canadian voters. We don't want to be the United States. If they're literally voting for someone who hasn't even lived in Canada for the last 5 years. He lived in the United States for the last 5 years, serving American capital. It's so wild to me how many people know nothing about the difference between left and right politics. And when you try to tell them the difference between left and right politics, it's like their brain explodes and they cannot fathom the fact that they are on the fascist side, that they are not on like that communism is not fascism. They can't understand that those two things are not the same.
Yeah, no. Like, these people think that the WEF is gathering at Davos to do communism.
Yeah.
Like, that's what they think. They think that's what's going on, that the global capital elite have a secret club where they do communism.
Do they really? Do they really? Or are we mocking them?
No.
No, Jessa, like, we're not mocking them.
Like, those guys in Coots they caught with the ARs, like, they thought that the UN was going to send Chinese troops into Canada. One of them said, I watched one of the, they issued the interrogations of these guys, right? So
I've been watching too much Red Dawn.
Right? Well, we're the Red Dawn generation.
Well, you can't watch too much Red Dawn, people. Like, there's some serious guerrilla tactics. CIA's
been directly involved in dozens of Hollywood productions. Like, all of us in North America have been weaned on propaganda, anti-communist propaganda. So, like, but there's a further, like, the advent of anti-intellectualism in Canada, where we made education too expensive, so now it costs $10,000 a year to learn what communism is. And so, like, communism is when government do things. Communism is when no iPhone. We end up with these warped definitions of it, and that's how much the left has ceded so much political space in Canada, is that we've even ceded the definitions of the words to our opponents in ways like we do. Like, the definitions are theirs to play with now. It's like
woke
actually mean doesn't matter. Yeah. And that whole enterprise is like a system that was like just like fucking with the meanings of words like ideology and narrative and agenda to mean things that, like, no, the conservatives don't have these, but the bad guys do. It's like, no, everyone has those. Like, everyone has those things. No, it's bizarre. But yeah, no, it's true. This is what you'll hear from these, like, that Carney's a secret communist. And lead with the WEF, and that's what's scary about him. I was like, the W, like, that's not even top 10. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
people
trying
know
to see if I
nothing
can find
about,
an old
like,
image.
also, like, that people know nothing about the origins too of, like, or like what actually is, like, like intelligence agencies, like, and their purpose, like American intelligence agencies, but not just American. It's like, you know, we all participate in it. Canada, Australia, Israel, we're all like one, essentially, intelligence agency. But people don't know anything about it, and they think it's just like some sort of government organization that, like, you know, protects people from, you know, quote unquote terrorists. So it's not, that's never been the purpose of it. Ever. Never in its history has it ever been the purpose of it.
No, most of the terrorist attacks were provoked by the CIA.
Yes, 100%, right? Like, they are the creators of terrorism. They are the terrorists. But their entire purpose is just to uphold Western capital at any cost. So that's why they install dictators. But like, pretty much every leader that exists on, like, here that serves American capital is the CIA asset, no matter what. Like, even Bukele in, like, South America, like, the guy is CIA. Like, he was installed by Israel. He went to Israel a year before he became president. A year. And he became, like, he went and, like, changed and, like, devoted himself to Israel a year before he became president. And then all of a sudden, he's a dictator opening up CCOT, you know? Like, these people are all intertwined. And I think Mark Carney is just one aspect of it. He's the Canadian asset, but I also think that Jagmeet Singh and Pierre Poliver are doing a little bit of a sheep herding operation here, that they are intentionally doing shitty things in their campaigns to ensure Carney's win. And I think that that's like, they're probably getting back like money from somewhere. Maybe the Bronfmans are paying them off or something. Just, to me, it's just so absurd that they ran such terrible campaigns, and that there was so much to talk about when it came to Carney, that if these people genuinely wanted to win, that they would have brought these things up. They would have, you know, brought up a lot of these really horrible things and really, like, obvious things that Carney, you know, says he stands or doesn't stand for. And they did none of it. They just let it all slide. And you're like, what? You're honestly not playing.
The NDP tried and they fumbled the bag, which is pretty much, which is broadly true, but was true in this case. Like, they made.
But how do you fumble a bag like that?
It was just too incomplete. They didn't do all the reading. They tried to strike early. They tried to pick on, like, one or two things. Like, you sheltered some tax money of this one unnamed corporation that no one's ever heard of that you were a partner in or whatever. Like, it just wasn't enough to. It was too oblique for people to understand it. That they didn't do a good enough job of establishing the connection and why it was bad. And they didn't touch on any of the actually much more important connections that you've mentioned in your remarks. So, like, that's it's just a fucking fumbled bag. And, like, and the same with, like, you know, Corey tonight just dragging the Conservative Party. Corey, of course, is the campaign manager for Doug Ford. Absolutely, like, on day 5, like, you know, we talk about, like, you know, later in the campaign it got back for the Conservatives. Day 5 of the campaign, Corey tonight was already. I don't think there had been, like, an expletive laden rant yet, but there was definitely there was like words, you know, some really strong words like negligence, you know, incompetence kind of thing coming from him. And then later in the campaign, we get from a podcast a literal expletive laden with the fucking like, just like, so that's a plot.
Yeah, and which makes sense because Doug Ford hitched his cart to Mark Carney almost immediately. Like, he was immediately like, you know, I'm friends with Mark Carney, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And like I said, I firmly believe that there must be some sort of back operation that's happening, some sort of discourse that's happening between these people, that they, like, agreed that, you know, that this was what they were going to do. I cannot fathom how they could run such bad campaigns, you know, especially considering that Mark Carney, like, he was responsible for giving Elon Musk $250 million to buy Twitter. Like, why was that not a huge talking point? People hate Elon Musk, and no, like, not a single, like, Pierre Poliver didn't bring it up.
Were they not aware of it? Maybe they weren't aware of it?
It came out, like, maybe 2 weeks ago. Yeah, Brookfield Asset Management, while Mark Carney was the chief, like, was in charge of Brookfield Asset Management. He was the chair of the board of directors. It was the single largest amount of money that they had ever given to an individual under Brookfield Asset Management through their investment arm. It was the largest. Like, you can't tell me that Mark Carney didn't sign off on that check. He was literally in charge. So, and nobody brought it up. People hate Elon Musk. Can you imagine? That would have been an excellent talking point. Nobody brought it up.
Yeah. Why? I mean, I don't think it wouldn't have had legs with the Conservative Party. I don't think it's not the kind of thing that their voters care about. And yeah, like, I think that the other parties just failed to make any hay with it. It is kind of interesting that, like, And the other thing too, we talked about it a little bit earlier before you joined us, that like I think at least that the conservative premiers understand that it's better that they have a liberal government to upload problems to. And they were relatively successful in uploading, for example, here in Nova Scotia, the carbon tax. You know, basically like the provincial conservatives here in Nova Scotia more or less ended up foisting a consumer carbon tax on Nova Scotians, but they blamed the Liberals. They were able to upload those problems. And so like with a conservative federal government, not only can you not do that anymore, now you wear their failures too, because people don't actually. I've got people like in the provincial election here in Nova Scotia, I have people yelling the federal slogans. It's like Jagmeet Singh. I'm like, which riding is he running? Like where's Jagmeet? Like Jagmeet's like a visiting dignitary when he comes here. He's not the boss of us. Like what are you talking?
I also want to put a little update in regards to the riding selection. As you guys are starting to see, the numbers are starting to pop up a little bit. So Ontario, Quebec's now officially closed. That's about 5 minutes ago. So you're starting to see the numbers rolling in from there. So I also changed a little bit of the format here for those who don't quite clear. All the numbers you're seeing here on the bottom is obviously the three major parties. The number saying is how much there's a total count for each party. And the numbers in the brackets is how many of those are confirmed elected as opposed to leading, as everybody's running away. The other, yeah, I'm like, all right, yeah, we had enough of you, Joe.
It's just me and you, man. They didn't like those numbers. You scared them with the ticker.
Clearly.
They've gone. Let's just say, for folks who can't read that small, I can see in the big screen there. So that is 19 seats are confirmed so far for the Liberals, 6 for the Conservatives, and the Bloc has. Oh wait, no.
They're leading in 6. So 20 for Liberals, but 19 of them are confirmed. 17 for Conservatives, but 6 of them are confirmed, and the Bloc are right now leading in 6. Also, one of the other things I also been taking a look at, because I think this is kind of a good information to have in regards to what's going on, and that is in regards to the seats. And I've been looking in regards to seats being called and whatnot, and so far everything's been a hold. So we haven't seen much of a shake, all but one seat, and that's in Long Range Mountains. That's a one riding that flipped from Liberal to Conservative. Everything else, on the other hand, has been consistently staying in its place.
Yeah, so those confirmed seats are Atlantic Canada, yeah?
Most of them are Atlantic Canada, that's correct. My last one I can see here in regards to, and this information I'm right now pulling from CBC. The last one was Acadie Annapolis, and that is, yes, I believe Atlantic Canada, and I believe our friend here, Mr. MacGillvry, can probably confirm Acadie Annapolis is out east.
Yes, that's kind of like the valley.
That was one of our notable ridings.
Yeah, super.
It is a notable riding, and it's now
squeaker. You know, like I was talking to a friend
of
mine.
It's declared, Sean.
Oh, is it? For who?
It's declared Conservative.
Conservative. Okay, yeah. That's I mean, I was
they held on to it.
Asked me about strategic voting and all that, and like I was like, which riding are you in? And he told me, and I pulled it up. And I was like, ooh. That's because they were like on scoreboard like 46% each, I think. So yeah, definitely a close one. So they've called it Conservative. Wow.
Yeah, they have. Sorry, another big update here. Boom, ticker go.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
So
the numbers
it's still,
are really climbing up now.
They are, and with Ontario just closing, not just
Ontario, Quebec, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta. Remember, we were looking at those times.
Yeah, I was so confused by that. But time zones, just like, I can't cope with them. They mess me up so much. If I ever book a interview with you folks, I will just give you my Eastern time. That's all I can do, and pray for the best, because when I try to convert it, I always miss an interview. I kid you not. It's almost sad. But I pulled up here Ontario's projection. Again, this is from the 338canada.com that a lot of people don't like. So, Sean, you can pull up smart voting as well if we want to just unpack Ontario a little bit. One of the things I want to talk about in Ontario is there were at least three, and maybe I'm missing some, NDP MPPs who left provincial politics to run for the feds. What? I don't have their statements. I don't actually care enough to look it up. I will simply speculate. But, the Ontario NDP are the official opposition. But, the NDP have thrown a really bad campaign. It's almost like they were determined to lose, but that wasn't always the case. Did they think that they were going to gain seats, or does anybody want to speculate on that? Why folks would leave a party with decent standing for a fourth party status? Were they trying to turn the tide there for folks? So that is, I alluded to them, but Monique Taylor, I have nothing nice to say about her, but she's running federally now. Joel Harden is in the same boat. I'm so sorry. I know some people really love Joel. And Ottawa Centre is another one of those ridings where they really turned out the vote. And I'm going to probably credit that to Joel and his team, because he's had Horizon Ottawa and a lot of good people working on his campaign. And another, how about a decent choice for folks, was Batula Kaparche. And these are all Ontario-based candidates who, had a chance with the Ontario NDP and chose to go federally. So I feel bad for them if none of them get their seat. I won't feel bad for Joel, but I'll feel bad for them if they don't get their seats. I mean, like, they're kind of made a career off of this at this point, and that was kind of a risky jump to take. So 338 projects 2 seats in. I need to know who those are. So they go detail by detail, or by writing here at the bottom. I gotta scroll, see if I can find Orange. So Timmins is a toss-up for folks. London Fanshawe, I believe that's Monique Taylor there. She's not guaranteed to win that riding by any means, though. Who are they calling for the NDP? Windsor West? Like, go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry. I thought you were talking about the numbers here. No, continue.
I'm just trying to find
2
these
minutes
two.
ago, another riding was called Battleford's Lloydminster. Meadow Lake is conservative. It's a hold. No change.
Okay. Hamilton Center, they're calling a toss-up. See, this one pissed me off when it came to all of the projections, but the smart voting. At one point, they suggested, I believe it was that site, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, that Hamilton Center would best strategically be a Liberal vote, even at the point where they hadn't fully confirmed the candidate. That is going up against Matthew Green, who is a pretty popular MP, and again, like, one of the only securable seats, it seems, in Ontario. That is something to see, such a low projection for the NDP in Ontario. I mean, I'm not surprised. I've called for their demise. I mean, did I say that? I've predicted. I'm sorry. I predicted it, but I guess, like, a lot of people did. But this is huge. I mean, like, they hold a lot of seats provincially, and to see, So I'm. Those are some of the ridings, like, some people might not care about, but I'm really curious because of what that will mean for the party's health overall, to lose Hamilton or other kind of strongholds that had previously been strongholds. Even Nikki Ashton, her seat, she's notoriously, raises the maximum, holds great campaigns, has held that riding for years, and she's not guaranteed to keep her seat either. So anybody got predictions in Ontario? Will the Liberals win enough seats here to make it an early night for people?
Updated the ticker.
What?
Oh, yeah.
It's
that's still too close for me.
It still got close. Another call, Madawaska Restaguch is now been confirmed that they're being held. They're holding with the Liberal.
Yeah,
everything's a hold right now, and I don't think anything's changing in Atlantic Canada.
Huh.
You guys are predictable. So far, only one seat flip has been called.
Yeah, it's kind of not erring on the side of 338. I mean, they had slightly different numbers for Atlantic Canada.
We haven't gotten into the areas yet. That's going to be sort of the swing areas.
My riding's definitely going to be conservative. I had a riding that was busted up don't recognize it anymore. It's an odd shape too. I don't know what they were thinking, but I think the Conservative will win both the new seat of York Durham and the newly created, I can't even, something new Tecumseh. And like, it's not even going to be close.
And this is what we're going to be watching for quite a bit right now, which is going to be particular. I know in Ottawa, right here in my city, we're going to be seeing a lot of changes. We had a lot of borders change on us, like bad.
Oh, mm-hmm.
So I mean, like,
do you think that'll equal seat changes? Like, they're not technically incumbents, but they are.
Yeah. So my riding has got an incumbent in it. I think it's going to slightly affect the demographic. Is it enough? I think it might be, because I checked up in the past in regards to my riding, which is Ottawa South. It's been long time Liberal, but they kept on just passing it by a couple of thousand votes, and the change in the demographic is a couple of thousand people shuffled around.
I have good news.
Enough to flip it.
I have to. Yara Sachs is trailing by a considerable amount of votes, and some people from around Canada are like, who's Yara Sachs? She is a raging Zionist Liberal candidate that has she doesn't get enough credit for how awful she is, I think, because she has a bit of a smaller profile. But let me tell you, when that's almost Freeland level cheering to lose that seat, even though she's losing to a Conservative, so it's hard to celebrate. That is the conundrum we find ourselves in politics, right? Like, I could not bring myself to vote Liberal. There's no way. Not after what I've seen in the last 19 months. I just could not give them a vote. That would be kind of conceding to me. But I am going to draw joy from seeing some Liberals drop their seats, and I hate for what that means for the overall picture. I hate that we're in that spot.
We got to take the wins where they come. It's interesting picking up on the things that you said about the dynamic between the provincial and federal party in Ontario. Notably, if I recall correctly, the New Democrat candidate that replaced Sarah Jama did pick up that seat. So I don't know if we can chalk it entirely up to lost social cachet or whatever because of the Sarah Jama thing. I don't think it can be discounted. It's probably a factor. But in terms of those candidates leaving the provincial party to run federally, I think that some people are coming at this like they had it in their mind they were going to do it for a while. Like, for example, in Halifax. So he knew for a while too. Eh? Okay.
He seemed to.
Like in Halifax, Lisa was acclaimed as the candidate for the NDP federally last year, early last year, before it would have been a thought in anyone's mind that there was an election imminent.
That's rare for the NDP.
I think it's a good strategic move. It gives the person time to get some visibility and to get out in the community and to do some outreach. But the numbers don't look great for Lisa, even versus her last performance, which was relatively strong. It was a close second in Halifax to Andy Fillmore. So, but at least according to smart voting, it's not really going to happen for her, but we'll see how it pans out. But some people might already have committed to this and then maybe realize, oh, wait a second, they didn't realize what the resurgence of the Liberal Party meant for the federal NDP.
Yeah, I think they thought they were going to be able to brag about the gains that they had under the Liberals, and it just turned into a Carney show that he didn't need to share the limelight with, He's not in the same... I feel like they thought they were in the same position with the Liberals that they were in non-election time. Like, somehow the Liberals would kind of carry them along with them and they could influence the election that way. And their star just, really dimmed. If you could call Jagmeet and what they went into this as... No one cared about the gains that they love to brag about. Dental care and pharmacare, whatever. Carney doesn't promise to expand it, and Lord knows what the Conservatives will do to it. But yeah, they got no clout for that. It was a real, I think even some people like me, I think I am still surprised of how bad a campaign the NDP ran.
Are you really though? Really?
I am, because they've hired other people. I figured they would just at least be more savvy, not principled. you know, like what happened to Jessica doesn't surprise me at all. Jessica Wentz is a content creator mostly on TikTok that, you know, was invited along with any other content creators, right? Like they waited till the last minute and put a call out like, hey, Jagmeet's going around the country. He might end up in your town. Can you help us boost? And right then, like I quote tweeted that.
You did a lot of work for them too.
She did. She did. She filmed things, and they put her under the bus completely, right? Like she mentioned,
there's an actual bus, like it's a tour bus. Like
yeah. Here, come join the bus so we can throw you under it. So, yeah. Not only did that then just basically end the content creator program to us. I mean, you can still see some of them out there shilling for the NDP uncritically. Like there's just some folks on just sound like they're just taking talking points from a morning email and putting it in their Twitter account with like no critical thought behind it. But for the most part, the creators were done with them.
Oh, they,
you know, I tried to warn people, but
everyone dragged them for filth. It was incredible. Every Canadian political TikToker of note took a swing at them over the Jessica Wentz thing. They got destroyed. Any goodwill they had built with Jagmeet's, you know, playing without us or about whatever that video game is called. I sound like a boomer now. You know, the AOC or like all that stuff about him, you know, having a successful TikTok account, like gone, burnt. Like,
oh yeah,
Ontario's not looking good.
It's
yeah, it's. Go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
Well, it's still kind of early here. So I got some updates that's also put in here as well as showing the updates as we're coming across. So a couple of things have been confirmed 5 minutes ago. Edgemont in out in PEI has been confirmed that's it's maintaining its liberal status, and Calgary Nose Hill has been confirmed that it's also be holding its conservative, and that's out now. What? So we have one from Alberta that's been confirmed, and it's Calgary Nose Hill.
Anyone
which is
can
impressive,
explain this?
and it's going to the.
There.
So the notable candidate there is Michelle Rempel Gardner. She's barely holding her seat.
Interesting.
And what? It was just such a landslide that they can declare now. When did their polls close?
I'm not sure when.
Why are their polls closed?
But I'm not sure. Well, no, their polls are closed now because they're closed again, as we were discussing the time zones and everything.
Sorry.
Don't worry, they're closed when we are closed.
Figure it out. I can't.
I know. They all close the same time as us, and if we're closed, and we are, then they're closed.
Then they're closed.
But yeah, Michelle Rempel Gardner. I guess I don't know have details in regards to her writing. Only 12. Yeah, this is where it's weird. 12 polls have reported, and they're already CBC's already declaring her as the winner of that particular riding.
Must be a blowout.
Is one of them the advanced poll?
She's got 60% of the share,
but
it's
don't
only
count that till the end.
12 polls.
I feel it's Canada people told me they're starting that as soon as they shut. They're actually going to start it a little bit earlier this time around with the advanced poll. So like we might be seeing some advanced poll results already. It's possible.
They already started in regards to counting Pierre's because, as we all recall, Pierre's is a bit of a complicated one, and let's talk about that one. Let me see if I can find that. Where did I put it?
So the riding of Carleton, like that was the number one turnout for advanced polls. 43, or no, eventually I think we ended up with more than that, but at least 43,000 people cast a ballot. And how many candidates are on there? Do you have it?
I have it. So let me see if I can change my share for this here, because it is absolutely ridiculous. So they have 91 candidates on that entire ballot, and the ballot looks like this.
It's like the Toronto mayor election.
Boom. It is a total of 91 ballots.
Imagine scrutineering that. Like, what is the point? And they're what are they all going to stand there? Does every 99 candidates have, or 91 have a scrutineer in there?
Yeah, it doesn't even fit inside of the properly within the little booth. But just to give you perspective, because again, how big does this look? Somebody actually has themselves standing beside this to give you some perspective. This is what you're lugging in there.
We need it to scale.
Holy shit!
And that's technically illegal. You can't actually. You're not supposed to take a picture of a ballot. Supposedly,
you're allowed to take a picture.
How did she leave with it?
No. Well, this one's marked specimen. It's not an official.
Okay.
You can't use this one.
Sean's ready to call Elections Canada.
Yeah. again, like this one here, that's specimen, so you're allowed to do whatever you want with it. It's exactly for that, because obviously these guys are like, yeah, we're going to need to have a media version of this one because people are going to want to see this ridiculousness. Let's be honest here. We're talking about it. But yeah, it's, they made somebody took a little video to show you this, how ridiculous looking it is. And it is, because I mean, like, it's 91. I'm curious to see how much of a problem this is going to be. I'm monitoring. He's one of the writings. Obviously, I'm monitoring in regards to see how well he's doing. I'm going to surprise you all with the fact that there was no numbers reported yet for that one.
Good news is that poor bastard is going to have to wait until maybe tomorrow to find out if he got to keep his seat. He'll probably even have to give whatever consolation or victory speech. I don't fucking know. And without knowing his own fate, that will be awkward. I mean, speech writers are just sitting there trying to figure that out. Are you going to be in the house even? But yeah, I'm looking at some Ontario numbers coming in. It's like poll by poll, and I'm seeing a lot of blue. I've seen even an incumbent Liberal roll by in second place. I haven't been kind of noting them because they just keep shifting, but I'm not sure the Liberals will get enough seats in Ontario by what I'm seeing so far.
I got another confirmation right now from Manitoba, riding mountain.
They're counting them fast in the prairies.
This one, 15 of 250 polls have been returned, and CBC's calling it for Dan Mazier.
Rachel Thomas just took Lethbridge for the cons in Alberta as well, confirmed, like by like blowing them out of the water.
But again, if we're talking about Alberta, they're staying with, they're predicting they're going to be staying with Conservatives. I'm like, the CBC might be also looking in regards to, well, they usually hold it very strongly. If we're seeing these numbers, we can already call it that these particular ridings are going to flip over there.
Yeah.
And so that's not going to be a surprise.
I'm decided I'm mad at the longest ballot. I think there was a time when I was like, oh, that's clever and funny. And like having talked to some people at the returning office, like, and knowing that is going to be an absolute nightmare. If
I was
the poll staff, like, for what? Like, I just think it's like,
if I found out that my writing that I'm working at, volunteer as, is going to be a longest ballot target, I'm out. Good luck. Go find another volunteer. I'm out. No way I'm handling this or counting that shit. That's going to be insane.
And they do by-elections too, right? So like they're doing this shit all the time. Yeah. It's not just every 4 years. It's like they've done a ton of places, and it's just a total like I get it. Like, okay, you guys made your point. Like, but it's just like it's not gonna force. It doesn't bring it to national prominence. First of all, like maybe it gets a little blip of a national story that some of the politics heads will pick up and go, "Oh yeah, that was funny," but like that's not gonna move the needle for anyone. It's kind of an asinine stunt too, right? So it's
a novelty.
Yeah, like it's crappy to those workers. Like it's just like you're like that's who you're making life difficult for. It's just like the election workers. It's stupid. Like volunteers in a lot of cases.
Yeah. I ran in a by-election, and folks come out of the woodworks in by-elections, right? Because you're freed up, you don't have a local riding. And I had he calls himself the engineer. I can't remember his real name, and he just runs in like every possible by-election, and his goal was the Guinness Book of World Records. And let me tell you, he turned every event that he showed up to into a circus. So I think there was one debate where he was invited and allowed to come, and he sang a lot of his statements. It was like just it was entertaining, but annoying as a candidate because you're having to share a stage with someone who's not taking it seriously at all. I mean, he made some valid points, to be honest. He was really anti-establishment kind of guy, obviously, but yeah, it just kind of turned it, and there was like 9 or 10 candidates on the ballot that time around, and if he wasn't invited to the debate, then he crashed it. I saw a lot of local. I had a issue here, not in my riding, but an adjacent riding, and a former guest on Rabble, Rants, Michael Spears, was running for the Communist Party, and there were a coalition of social justice groups and health coalitions that were throwing a debate in the area of, they were going to have 2 ridings in one night, and they weren't inviting any of the fringe parties. They were going to just follow kind of standard legacy media rules around the debates. And even though conservatives and even the liberals hadn't RSVP'd yet, eventually, like, folks got them to overturn that. But I wonder if that was the same in your area, because when I debated, almost everybody was on stage that was on the ballot. As annoying as it was to have to listen to that many people, I don't remember folks getting denied. And that was right about when conservatives started to not show up at all, like as a matter of policy. So I'm wondering, in your local ridings here, and folks in the comments can chime in as well, did you find people were showing up for the debates, like residents, I guess, like were people interested in that? And were the candidates showing up? Because between Polyev kind of cutting media from his plane, selecting questions, calling reporters activists, and then they're dodging the debates, not to mention the joke of a platform, I'm not sure folks know exactly what the conservatives have planned. Should they have any power? I mean, we're hoping they don't, but anybody think what they'll do differently than Carney if they get in over the Liberals?
I don't know. To pick up on your candidate forum question, at least in Nova Scotia, I observed some conservatives that no-showed, or not no-showed, but they declined to participate. So in my own riding of Dartmouth-Cole Harbour, the conservative candidate declined all 4 forums they were offered. Those forums made a reasonable attempt to include everyone. I thought, like, there was a libertarian at both of them as well. That ended up, or all 3 of them that ended up going ahead. His name was Joseph Shea, but he was like not. He was just like this funny centrist guy. I'm like, what's libertarian? Like, you know, like libertarians, like capital L libertarians, are usually right libertarians, right? Like don't tread on libertarians. Like know the age of consent in every state libertarians, but like this guy was just some rando centrist who picked a different party to run with. So it was interesting. But they made, I think, a reasonably fulsome attempt to include everyone. In the debates that I watched in the 2K Breton ridings, there was a conservative on both of them. One of them was Alan McMaster, the former finance minister of Nova Scotia, who left that party to run federally. He performed quite well. I would argue he won his debate with Jaime Batiste. And yeah, the conservative did appear at the other one as well. And attendance was pretty good. There were 4 candidate forums in Dartmouth Harbour, and they weren't all rammed. And the audience definitely trended older. Definitely,
they usually do.
Majority senior citizens. They tend to happen in churches, and so that's kind of what you get. But yeah, I think I don't really have enough of a yardstick of like if attendance was up or down this time around. But it seemed like they were interested. Like there was good attendance. And yeah, as many, you know, the sort of the fringe parties, like and the Marxist-Leninist candidate Nick Boisvert in Cape Breton was on the CBC debate on the stage right next to the PPC guy with his tacky medals, like his military medals on this like cheap like Value Village blazer. He's completely unhinged and had all kinds of like bizarre things to say, as you might expect. But yeah, like there was the fringe parties were there, I guess. Like, and I think it's quite brave. I got to shout out Nick Boisvert for running on a Marxist-Leninist ticket in Sydney because that's a brave move.
All those commies out there are brave.
I got some more running announcements here. 3 running announcements I just got here. So actually, one of them's of interest. So Liberals flipped out Nova Scotia. Liberals did flip a conservative riding to Liberal,
Which
and
one?
that is South Shore St. Margaret's. So
the NDP didn't run a candidate there, remember? And they thought that would hurt the Conservatives.
Yeah, so the Conservatives, Rick Perkins lost his seat to Jessica Fancy Landry. 2 other seats have been confirmed. Liberals are holding Saint-Maurice Champlain up in Quebec, and that's to François Philippe Champagne. And yeah, I'll take care of all the Quebec ones. Don't worry, Jessa.
That was your promise. I could do Outremont.
You can do Outremont. And I can also talk about Boyce has been called. Now, Boyce is being held by the Conservatives. Jason Brulot. I was watching Boyce. Boyce is in Quebec. Beauce. And this one's of interest. Sorry?
That's what I would have said as Beauce. I said it that way earlier, yeah.
Yeah, it is both, and that one's of interest because that is Maxime Berdier's riding, and he's in fourth.
Oh,
13 polls have been called so far, and
you sound devastated.
they've already called it.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm watching the poll numbers coming in, and they were going through Quebec, and I was noticing a few at least consecutively coming up that were Bloc incumbents, with Liberals having a lot more votes reported in. So that was the prediction on 338, that the Liberals would gain seats in Quebec, about 12 seat gain, and the Bloc would lose. Just it's just they're trading it amongst themselves. There are no other players in Quebec.
Yeah, there's not
really. I mean, the cons are doing terrible.
We've only seen 2 seat flips so far, and one out east was one that went from conservative to liberal, liberal to conservative, and now we see another one which is conservative to liberal to conservative. So, I got that backwards. First one we saw at east was from liberal to conservative. The second one we've just seen just now, which is from conservative to liberal. So it's kind of, in what's confirmed, it's kind of neutral. I don't know if there's any flips in the leadings yet, and there is a lot of leading, a lot of stuff.
Sean Fraser is trailing, according to an overlay I just saw on CBC. I've got CBC open, muted in another window, and yeah, he's trailing supposedly.
That bucks the trend and the predictions.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying that kind of doesn't jive with the predictions that we had up earlier, right?
No, and I think it's early on those polls. Like, it's low numbers so far. It's like a 50 vote spread in the low hundreds of the count of both of them. So still lots of votes to come in there. But interesting to see, because he's well liked.
Leah Gazan is in the fight for her life in her riding. I forget which. She's in Manitoba. I'm forgetting what her riding name is, but she's trailing just by 60 votes at this point, with not very many polls reporting. But I think there's going to be a lot of incumbent NDP seats that folks are going to have their eye on. Burnaby Central. I think BC just closed, right? I had the little ticker on CBC, and they said a poll just closed. So that must be the end. Or is that like Nunavut or something? Like
the last one? If a poll's just closed now, no, it'd be BC.
Okay, so we'll start to get some of those.
Polls are now closed.
Yeah, they're all closed. So, yeah, Jagmeet is not he was again in the predictors third. We'll start to see the numbers pour in for BC there. They do have a few seats to lose, I guess, out there. How many are they projected to win? Has anybody seen? I think it was just 2 or 3 in BC. So someone's going to have to lose their seats. Avi Lewis is also running. He's tried a few times to run for the NDP. It doesn't seem like the climate to do that now. I doubt he'll be successful, but we'll watch them come in. But yeah, just go ahead.
Avi's another instance of someone who probably committed to this a little while ago.
Yes, he did.
He did a tour last year with Council of Canadians where, like, I really got, like, this is like the beginnings of a leadership bid vibes. He sees the writings on the wall for Jagmeet, and then he was starting to position himself nationally to make a run for the leadership. So I think, and like getting a seat's important for that. Obviously, like this would be his opportunity to go into that process with a seat. So I think that's the gambit for him. I don't know, like, but it's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it works out for him. But yeah.
It's risky, too, because he's already lost. How many times can you go in to ask to be a leader when you've been tested at the polls and not won? Right? So, like, where you live there, where are you going to win? Like, where do we have to put you? There's definitely no guarantees. So that's a bit of a litmus test. Whereas Matthew Green, I mean, he's not guaranteed to hold on to a seat, so that could still change. But I think he's grown a bigger profile in terms of being the next person to lead the NDP. I want to check in with Ash, though, because you've been quiet. What are you thinking? Are you sitting here wondering what Carney's first move is going to be? Is it too close for you to relax? You didn't really care to begin with. I mean, you care.
Yeah. No, I was curious. Sorry, you were talking about. I live country, right? I live rural.
Me too.
So, like, we don't have like debates here. Like our candidates, once they are appointed, I don't know appointed, but once they're elected, they essentially run and stay in their riding until they die. And that has been the case I've always lived, like I've lived rural since 2009, 2010. So 15 years. And like, I nowhere I've ever lived have candidates ever had debates. So I thought that was interesting. Like your local candidates have debates? Yeah.
Yeah, even in my rural area, you know, and they shift around because like it's a few different townships or whatever you call them. They all have different standings. So it does move around, and it's more and more every time. Like it used to just be the chambers of commerce, right? That would throw it, and it would be so typical conservative geared questions. But then social groups started doing that. And I know those are harder to find in rural communities, but I guess like there is a tiny suburban elements to my riding, I guess, but that's not where the debates necessarily stem from. But I can absolutely relate to the, you know, it's, you could run a dead cat or like me against the conservatives and they will win every time. And they don't necessarily have to die here, but they pass the baton, right? So they retire and then they choose their successor basically. And we're stuck with them until they decide that they've earned enough money off the public's back and can retire themselves. And they're like the biggest property owners always in the area.
Oh yeah.
In mine. Like, the two biggest property owners have been our last two federal MPs.
Yeah. And I mean, we, like our riding is massive. Like my riding here spans like to drive from one area, like one side of it to the other, like almost like an hour and a half of driving. Like it's massive. So there's not really any community really. Like I find that they like the way that they've carved up rural spaces in like the Ottawa area, like there's no community. Like my little community is like, I think there's 5,000 people who live in my town, right? Like
that is small.
Yeah,
the turnout will probably be low too.
Yeah,
Sean,
and
do you,
like, oh, sorry,
do you have the CBC up? Sorry, because CBC has just announced a Liberal government. So whether it's minority or majority, they're in the leadership or the party space for the Liberals, and
I can tell you why right now. Give me a second here. So the ticker board right now, I haven't been able to update it. Sorry?
We missed you.
Ah, thank you. I just had to go take care of something in the kitchen. I mean, I'm not surprised they're calling it right now because I'm about to update the ticker. And as it stands, the Liberals are right now leading with 119 seats.
CBC says 129, so 130.
130 seats? Okay, so I'm right now watching the CBC one. I'm like, all right, well, how come you guys haven't updated your thing yet? So, at 130, it's going to be hard for them not to say it's not a Liberal, or at least a Liberal win. It's huge.
Any more confirmed from out east? Like, have we seen the NDP secure a seat yet? I know the counter has them at 2, but this is just projections. Not all the polls have been counted. But I'm wondering where the fuck they
talking about it right now. 2 ridings. You need 12 to get official party status.
You need
reading it. All right.
Yeah. So you need, again, we've said it before, but 173,
72, I think.
172 to there it is right there on
CBC's down now
to get a majority government. So the CBC has declared Liberals the winner, but what level of win will it be? The super majority Jugmeat warned us about. We don't have super majorities. That was me being facetious. You shouldn't use language like that. It confuses the already confused people politically, right? Like we already do get our systems mixed up with the United States. We don't need to help people be more confused in that regard. Did NDP pick up a seat in Quebec?
They're last I checked, they're leading it right now. I haven't gotten any confirmations. If not, they've right now. It looks like the CBC site has just gone sideways.
Whose seat, Boulouris? I'll have to go back. Whose seat is it? That do you know?
It might be Craig Sauvé. Maybe.
I I saw he was pretty low in the last time they showed those
I
counters.
don't know about that. Like it's that ish area. It looks like it's close to the plateau.
I know. Zoom in.
Computer enhance.
Can't he hear us?
Come on, David.
A bunch of yeah. Now, conservatives, how are they feeling right now? Are they transitioning into January 6th mode? Or, is this a big enough? Because now, CBC Canada has 136 Liberal to 94 Cons. That is starting to look like a majority is possibly in the works.
Actually, I wouldn't say majority yet. It's 103 versus
it's close.
94. It's definitely, I'd be surprised if it's not going to be a Liberal win. If it's going to be a Liberal majority.
Well, okay, I have a scenario I'm going to drop. I'm going to drop it for Ash first. Let's say it's a very, very fine majority. Okay? Minority. Does anybody pull some deals to make it a majority? Let's say the NDP have these 3-4 measly seats, but they make the world of difference all of a sudden. There's 100 and some odd seats to count and, a differential of 50. So, it's
Don't
possible.
forget the block, though. Don't forget the block. They're going to be there. They're going to be sitting with around 17 seats now. Is what I'm looking at here. I need to update my thing.
18.
The CBC sticker's got 18. So one of the ridings is in Alberta that went orange. One is in Manitoba, and one is in Nunavut.
What's the one in Manitoba? Did Nikki win?
So it's Alberta, Montreal, and Nunavut. Those three.
Okay, Nunavut is just a given.
Yeah, and it's all that's literally one federal. The entire thing is one federal riding, if I recall correctly, right?
It is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. And yeah, it wasn't all that long ago that. Now, did the incumbent run again? Was it Lori? Lori was running again.
I presume
in Nunavut. They don't have a good track record with how they treat their candidates from Nunavut.
Yeah.
Musquasin was, Momalak was very candid in sharing her experience with the party and not being supported and what it was like when she left. That's hard to hear too. Again, candidates are really vulnerable. So if you know anybody who's just run, even if they never thought they were going to win, they're probably in a rough spot right now, and I would check in with them. Because even when I ran or even worked on campaigns where we never expected to win them, it was still not a fun moment when the final results came in. Even if you were trying to find some, some polls that you won, some bright spots to build on, and you did your best to kind of find joy in it and be with the people in your campaign. But it's kind of a tough spot for some candidates to be right now. I've got no love lost for incumbents really, but some people put themselves out there and they're not going to be happy with what they're seeing right now. But that gap is closing, by the way, just as we're talking about it. The cons just picked up a lot, at least projectedly. So they're at 101 to 138 Liberals. So
correct.
Yeah, and BC is still mostly there's mostly no full results for there's no polls reporting from BC or Yukon yet. So that's a big wide open area. So in Nunavut, it is Lori Adloud, and she was not actually favored to prevail. She looks like the Liberal is there's no strategic voting. It's basically 39% for the Liberal, 38% for the NDP candidate in that riding in the smart voting projections. And the Conservative is a distant third at 20%. So there wasn't really it was just a dead heat between those two. So I guess she seems to have prevailed for the time being.
People are definitely going to be going over these projection websites and comparing the outcomes, and that'll be curious. BC was projected to be a near tie in ridings for 338. They had 21 going to Oh, I should share my screen so you guys don't have to take my word for it. They had 21 going to the cons and 20 going to the liberals. Where's my screen, Joe? There it is. And 2 seats going to the NDP. So that's if that moves forward like that, it kind of keeps them at the same. But Alberta obviously very rich with expected conservative seats, and Manitoba again at a near tie like BC. Seeing those Alberta numbers there, it makes sense why so many races were declared early. Like, they're just the clear favorites, obviously, in Brexit.
In Brexit.
What do they call it there? They have
Wexit.
the Wexit. Thank you.
Brexit, yeah.
How do they feel about Trump over there? I wish we had got someone from Alberta to come in. I guess they're not feeling very good.
I think they love him, don't they?
I mean, even with this talk about annexation, does that not, and the tariffs, like, does that not bother them? Like,
They want that.
former MAGA fans? Like, no? Am I naive?
Yeah, I think they want that. I don't know. That's what I get from it, is that they really like. Well, I mean, if you spend time on X, it's hard to know what people actually think, because most of the people are not real. But
I was going to say, it's like, now you have to determine if they actually have a pulse first, and then you can have a conversation.
Right. For the small percentage of Albertans that you see on there or whatever, most of the time they are very pro-American. So I wouldn't be surprised if they would be happy with that.
They
The
voted
PPC
in Daniel
candidate.
Smith.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said they voted in Daniel Smith. Like, this is
Right.
this is who they're dealing with.
The PPC candidate in the Kanzo Antigonish debate openly said on the mic, "I think we'd be better off as the 51st data." You should have heard the room absolutely let him have it. Oh my God!
Oh, good.
Are you new
As you
here?
should.
Like, why did you think that? Why did you think you were going to say that? Like,
Did
yeah,
someone not
like,
advise him before that? Like, that is...
roundly, who's advising? God, these are crackpots for the most part. Like, with no team basically. So, but yeah, no, he came right out and said we'd be better off. It's like, okay, buddy.
That's this British Columbia that I'm flicking through on the shared screen there. On top of it being a tie, it does include Liberals picking up 5 seats and the Cons losing 7. For folks who don't know, BC has an NDP provincial government. So again, trying to make sense sometimes of political versus federal politics in a province can drive you mad. But 2 seats just from 13 is a huge loss for the NDP here. This is just projections. We haven't seen the final numbers. Right now, CBC has in total NDP at 7 seats. But to think that they might lose 11 seats in British Columbia, I think must speak to how people feel about the governing provincial party. EB runs like a Liberal, if not worse, when it comes to energy projects. It's I always am able to use that as an example when people are like, yeah, but when the NDP get in power, they'll behave differently. And it's like, will they?
Well, one of the biggest of all the authoritarian power grabs of all the premiers across the country, next to Nova Scotia, David Eby's is the biggest grab. The major sweeping changes he's made most recently to the powers of the provincial government in BC, they don't rise to the same level of the ones here because they're so sweeping. The stuff they're trying to pull here is crazy. Undermining the Auditor General and all this kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, BC is such a funny political animal because like what I tell people about the BC NDP is that the most important thing to know is that there is no BC Liberal Party. So you have to think about okay, well, where are all those people? And when there was a BC Liberal Party, it was basically a BC Conservative Party called a Liberal Party. And the remnants of it became whatever passes for the Conservative Party out there now. So, bad numbers for Nikki Ashton so far. Rebecca Chartrand, 540 to Nikki Ashton's 308 votes with 15 of 181 polls reporting. Not great, but still lots of polls to come in.
It is, but the advanced polls there were so low, even for that community. For me, that's always a bit of a red flag for incumbents to not have generated the votes they needed kind of ahead of time. But Saanich Gulf Islands, I'm waiting to see that turn up, because if you look at the 338 projection that I have highlighted there, they call that a toss-up between the cons and the greens. Like, what's going on in your riding? What is going on in your riding that those are the two leading choices? But also want to draw attention to Burnaby. What? Where'd it go? I guess it has a different number. Where's the Burnaby South?
I think it's just called Burnaby now. If you're talking about Burnaby Central.
Jegmeet's riding. Where are we?
Burnaby Central.
Sorry, that was right up there. My apologies. They've just called that liberal leaning. And I think your second possibility there, second in the running, was the Conservatives. So I haven't seen those numbers. Has anybody seen those flash up on the screen? No, BC just closed.
I'm right now watching that when I'm looking at Burnaby. There's nothing reported in for Burnaby yet.
Yeah, it usually takes a little bit. I imagine those numbers will start to come in quite shortly, and it looks like BC's going to kind of get their wish, where maybe their votes do make the difference, maybe not between a Conservative or a Liberal government, but whether or not the Liberals end up with a majority and the NDP get relegated to unofficial parties. Highlighted a Lulu. So nice to see you.
Hey, Lulu.
Yes, Lulu's made a comment there. We were talking about how are people reacting in Alberta to MAGA and its like disdain for Canada, and she's reporting back, it's all anecdotal, but that's what we're asking for, folks to check in, that it doesn't sit quite well with them. They're probably not sure what to do with it all. Like, how does that translate into their votes? It might not be the same, but to feel anger towards Trump, they don't know what to do about it.
About the 147 here.
What's 147? Oh, the Liberals.
Yep, down to 146. I try to keep up with the numbers constantly shifting here.
I know, and it changes based on what site you're on.
I'm just right now just keeping track. Sorry?
The NDP number dropped from 9 to 5 a few seconds ago.
Oh yeah, it's down to 5. Block, like, literally it's from every few minutes, not even every few minutes, like every 15 seconds I need to sort of change it, because it's just constantly shifting right now. And obviously it's just the leads are leading, the leading ridings are just shifting places right now constantly. Another jump towards Conservatives as they've gone up now next to 3.
I'm seeing Ottawa Center's numbers coming in, and Joel Harden is losing big time. Lulu, that one's for you, honey. I hate doing that, because there is comrades that are working on that campaign that are just like worked real hard, and they wanted to see a win, but that person is not good people. So that's like my evil little laugh is what is coming out now. I'm so sorry, but it's true. Long story. We won't go there tonight. Not tonight, Lulu. Those who know.
Yeah, we are showing one green seat on the board now on CBC.
They are.
Yeah, look, they've had to change the whole ticker on CBC. So who? But again, that's not confirmed.
It's Mike Morris, I figure.
Yeah.
It'd be too early to call it for May.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much got to be Mike. I think that they're hoping Paul Manley has a shot this time too. He's won that seat previously. That's another BC seat, but it's not as it's even more, not far-fetched, but even less likely than Elizabeth May's seat right now.
There's more confirmations that are coming in. I'll be able to go read off some of the seats that have been received as I've finally got my connection back here. NDP still working on confirming, but we've got at least some confirmations of what's going on. And boom.
Have any more races been officially called, or are everyone being kind of conservative with that?
Been called. Obviously, for quite a while, I've just finally got access to it, but everything's still a hold. Everything that's been confirmed hasn't been a flip. It's just been a hold. So nothing's flipped over yet. There's some block ones have been confirmed now, but again, I haven't seen many more flips.
I'm
knew there was
wondering.
a bit of
I'm wondering if we can try to get an answer. I flagged one of Kirch's. He was working on Chris Markovich's campaign, and he just. I said I would bookmark this and revisit it. A lot of people put predictions out there that we're going to probably follow up on. This is just one of them, and I flagged it also just because Ottawa Center was trickling in there, but I'm wondering if we can look up the other ridings that he's flagging as possible seats the NDP can pick up. I mean, we've kind of gone under the guise that they're just going to be losing seats, but do they have promise?
I will also state that of all the leaders so far, the only one that's been confirmed has been Yves Blanchette, who has been reelected in regards to his seat. So the CBC is calling it for him. Not a big surprise there. I know it's upsetting, but it is what it is. And Maxime Bernier
Evan Solomon is leading in his riding.
Maxime Bernier has lost his seat. I think we already stated that before. Everybody else, we're still waiting to hear out. Mark Carney is leading in his seat, but there hasn't been really that many results in yet. It's still really early to call for him. They've only had 10 polls out of 230, but more than likely he's probably going to do okay. It's my money.
Fuck. All right, I've got some updates as well. They're not called, but Chrystia Freeland's definitely going to win her seat. Fuck. She's got like twice as many votes as the next closest person, so I guess I'll just have to keep the cork in the champagne for now. But I mentioned 3 Ontario NDP MPPs who took their shot federally. It's not looking good. I don't know where Monique Taylor is. I don't care either. But Butila, I think a lot of people were going to be cheering for as a bright spot. I know one of my comrades, Bob Chandler, is particularly fond of this politician, and she is in 3rd place in her riding right now. It's not looking good. So the gamble that some players took in this political moment, I don't know whether they thought federal politics was just more important or a higher profile for them, more fitting to the issues. I don't know what their motivations were, but they might be looking for new jobs soon.
Yara Sachs is still losing, but only by 50 points, and
to
Roman Baber. So,
yeah, I mean, it's a lose-lose. That is one of the best examples of lose-lose. I mean,
that's a bad time. The one green number has been taken off the board on CBC.
And Nikki Ashton's deficit just keeps growing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, see, I've heard good things about Butila. So Lulu is one of my barometers. All right. And so if she's going to chime in and say that that's good people, I'll second that motion. And it does suck to see good people lose elections. But as we know, Lulu, they are much better doing things outside of that partisan shit anyway. They're more effective and can get more things done eventually. Although, I mean, I've never had a good rep, so that must sting to actually get a good one and then lose them to kind of a bit of political nonsense. So, yeah, I'm feeling that. But the Liberals are 19 projected seats away from a majority, and the gap has closed to 29 seats between them and the Conservatives, with I don't know how many left to go. Anybody can do that math. And the Greens fell off the chart.
Greens did fall off the charts.
Oh, the moment they had and then lost.
Exactly. They make them back.
I wonder if there's any Green supporters in the comment section. I know we were looking to see if some folks from campaigns out west would join us. I'm maybe guessing they're at a watch party, not feeling all that great at the moment, considering the results that are coming in for the Green Party. I imagine we have more numbers on Elizabeth May's riding at this point. Be curious to start seeing how that's doing. And I'm just dying to see Jagmeet's. Just out of curiosity, you know, nothing personal or anything like that, but you know, and how will they react? So what's the first thing you think Liberals are going to do if they they take home a minority government. Anybody want to speculate? I'll let Ash go first because we haven't heard from you in a bit. What's Carney's first move?
I'm sure he's going to make some sort of alliance with someone. I imagine it'll probably be with the Bloc. But, I mean, maybe not. The Bloc has been very vocal about how much disdain they have for Canada recently. So, maybe... The wind just picked up at my house, and it sounds like there's like, I don't know what happened outside. It's like howling winds all of a sudden at my house. My dogs all think there's somebody out there.
Oh, I was gonna say that wasn't a dog. It sounded like a dog, but it was a dog.
It was
They
my
just
dog.
declared Carney winner, of his seat.
Oh, actually, it's coyotes outside.
Oh,
Oh, Jesus, they're really close to my house. Sorry, this is very distracting. They're like literally right outside my house.
it's like Toronto saying they have a coyote problem. Looks like Carney's gonna take the stage shortly. How can he make a speech if he doesn't know if he holds a majority or minority government?
I guess
Well,
he
they
doesn't care.
they know they're gonna they're gonna hold power at this point.
But surely their speech differs
I
to a
got
degree,
weird
right?
problems.
Or no?
My feed from Elections Canada is going up and down. Everybody, I think, is hammering all these sites right now. So
Looks like a squeaker in Terra Nova, the Peninsula, a dead heat between the Liberal and Tory there, and with both of them with huge 5-digit counts of voters. Real, but it's within like a few hundred votes. So that's one to watch. The Conservatives currently ahead there.
I'd be curious also to see the turnout today. You know, we had really great turnout in advanced polls. Did that momentum carry through to E-Day?
I think
Was anybody at the poll today?
On. Yeah, I think we're gonna be getting those numbers later on for sure.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I don't think we're gonna get them right away. Oh, all right, you're back.
Sean Fraser is looking a little healthier now. Sean seemed to be concerned about poor Sean over there in the Atlantic, but he's
We gotta-
equally
we gotta
back.
get together.
It's a close race, though. We're talking about
Sean
300 votes.
solidarity. We have name solidarity.
I understand.
I got with Sean's
Exactly.
I see a few McLeans popping through the the choices here. Yeah, it looks like, as predicted, a lot of these seats in Alberta are just landslides for the Conservatives. Tim Uppel is, running away with it with Blake Desjardins. He's 30 votes in the second place. Blake Desjardins is an NDP incumbent in one of the Edmonton ridings, I believe. It's already gone past, so I don't have it. But there's going to be a lot of incumbent NDPs that are not having a fun time tonight. I'm glad, though, the stress I think people were carrying with them for much of, I was going to say the day, but this has run longer than just one day, that stress.
Oh, yeah.
I think people
I
are
think
probably
there's going to be a collective. I think there's going to be a collective relief now, at least amongst people, knowing it's not going to be Pierre's government running it, and this might be able to open up to conversation with people because, again, they were touchy.
But, will it? Look at those numbers, 150 to 130 with the Bloc holding the balance. So, what issue are you talking about that the Liberals are going to have their way with it? Right? This is a Conservative government because they're going to have to please the Conservative and the Bloc, who are more likely to work together than the Bloc joining up with the Liberals, I think. They could form their own government, no?
Arnold Dearson still has a crazy lead too. Fuck me gently.
You're thinking the Bloc goes with him?
I don't see it as any more likely of them working with the ruling Liberals either. I mean, that seems like, just listening to Blanchette in the debates where it was like sovereignty or bust. I mean, he just kept reminding folks of Quebec's nationalism and their position on, the notwithstanding clause and getting,
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
as soon as that conversation occurred in the debate, I'm just like, tee-hee, this should be fun. But yeah, I mean, let's be honest here, though. He's never, the Bloc's never sort of, lied about what their position was. They were straight up front. we're about Quebec and just Quebec. And our provincial party is trying to get out of Canada. Now that they're, and even the messaging that he's currently talking about, which is the whole artificial nation and whatnot, he's talking about trying to position Quebec. And you hear it, he's trying to position Quebec as like, well, we're a nation and we're part of Canada. We're not Canadians. You guys try to make us Canadians, but we're not Canadians. We're a part of Canada, but we are Quebec. So he's always still got that particular nationalism thing going on. And it's at this point in time, I'm like, can we move on from that? Even the province has moved away from it. Like, the numbers are not as strong as they used to be back in the day. Nobody cares about the idea of Quebec separating anymore because it does not make sense in the current world. Back then, you might have had a crack at it, but nowadays, this is not the world to try to do that in.
I see the NDP showing some interesting numbers in BC, non-incumbents at the top of the polls in some ridings, and the CBC ticker can't decide where the NDP is. Their number changes the most, it seems like. They're at 8 from, which was 9 a second ago, which has been as low as 5 within the last 20 minutes probably. And again, the Liberals are 156, the Cons at 131. We definitely thought we would know the outcome by now. I mean, presumably we know the outcome to a degree, but
I made that prediction and I was wrong.
I thought it would be more heavily, I thought it was a majority for sure. I mean, it still could be. Like, we still have to work out the numbers, but the vote change in BC in terms of popular vote, the NDP lost 16% of the popular votes. That's a blow. That's a huge change in margins. Now, do you think the NDP's collapse has more to do with the positioning of the Liberals and the Conservatives? Oh, let's pull Kim in for this question. Welcome, Kim. I was just about to ask people whether or not they thought the collapse of the NDP, or presumable collapse, comes more from the positioning of the Liberals, needing to beat the Conservatives to save Canada. Those are not my words, obviously. Or from the way that they've strategized and, let down their base for a large part. Like we've talked a lot about, they rely on volunteers, like more than any other party. And their grassroots took quite the hit. So anybody else, anyone want to chime in? Like, Kim, welcome. Do you want to kind of opine on that and then maybe check in locally and tell us what the hell's happening in Alberta?
Sure. So my answer to your question is yes.
All of the above?
Yeah. I think I think the NDP was screwed going into their agreement with the Liberals, because as people predicted, the Liberals are going to take credit for everything that came out of that agreement, which is what happened. And then, of course, they all think that the Economist and the Bank of Canada governor is the one to save us from Trump. And so it's just inevitable that everybody's going to fall behind the Liberals, because they see them as the ones who've delivered the promises that some of us are able to benefit from, as well as being the ones who are going to be able to save us from Trump. And there's just nowhere for the NDP to go.
You sound skeptical when you say the banker's going to save us from Trump.
Well,
I know.
I'm saying that's what people are thinking.
I know.
Those are my own thoughts. I think the banker's going to make things worse for us than it has been over the last 4 years.
And to pick up on what he was saying about the Liberals ending up taking the credit, this happened as well in UK politics with the Liberal Democrats and their agreement with the Tories, where like they kind of like held the balance of power, and they sort of like had this deal going, and then like when there was another election, the electorate punished them, and just all those votes went to the Tories basically, and they lost out. So a similar effect, and I've heard it referenced a few times among the punditry.
Kim, Alberta's numbers are starting to trickle in, but none of us can make any sense of it. I mean, are you expecting just most of the seats to go to the Conservatives? If the NDP can get any, where are they going to pick them up?
Yes, I do expect most of these to go Conservatives, but there are probably about a dozen ridings that I'm interested in to see how they're going to turn out. Right now, the Conservatives, last projection I saw, 59% of the popular vote released their intention, voter intention. 59% were going to Conservatives, 29% for the Liberals, and only 8% for NDP. That's for Alberta voters specifically, not federally.
I was scared.
And so,
I was like, what?
And that's really interesting because when I did some analysis on the voting in the 2001, there were 19 second place finishes for the NDP and only 11 second place for the Liberals, 16 third place and 13 third place for Liberals, 0 fourth place showings for the NDP, and 12 fourth place showings for the Liberals in the 2001 election or 2021 election. There were 24 fourth place for PPC. So only PPC or the Liberals got in fourth place in every Alberta riding in the 2020.
Were they running in every riding?
Was the
NDP have a candidate?
Yeah, there were 37 ridings, and all four parties ran a candidate in all 37 ridings.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so the NDP basically had the best showing outside of the Conservatives in the 2020 election. But now, as I said, projections are showing 29% Liberals and only 8% NDP in the Alberta ridings. And so I'm really curious because there's about 12 that I'm really curious about that are really close to 50% or under 50%. The ones that are over 50% were both brand new ridings. And there are a couple that are under 40% for the Conservatives. And they're like neck and neck for all three parties. So I'm really curious to see how those ones are going to run. Like Randy Boissonneau's riding, for example, is a brand new riding. He's not running. And it's when they redid the voting redistribution from the 2020 election, it was 32.6 for the Conservatives, 31.2 for the Liberals, and 30.41 for the NDP from the 2021 results. So I'm really curious about the ones. But I'm particularly interested in the Lethbridge riding because that's my own riding.
And have you seen any numbers trickling in yet? Are you gonna?
Yeah, but it's only like 2 or 3 polling stations reporting.
You're not going to allow yourself.
We just ended like 45 minutes ago, so I'm not sure how it's going. But I'm really curious because even though Conservatives got 55% of the vote last time, it's their lowest showing since 1999, and we have a former mayor, either 2 or 3 term mayor who's really popular, won every time he ran once he got elected. He's running on the Liberals, and the Liberals haven't been in second place in Lethbridge since 2004. And so it's really I'm really curious about how that's going to go. A lot of people I know who voted Alberta NDP in the last provincial election have Chris Spearman signs, the Liberal candidate, signs on their lawns this year. And so I'm really curious to see how that's going to play out. I think if anybody, the NDP candidate, well, I'm sure he's a really nice guy. Nobody knows who he is. And same with the PPC candidate, which PPC doesn't do very well here anyhow. But I don't anticipate that NDP is going to get second place this time around. It's just that Chris Spearman is a very, very popular person, really well known. The last several months, he's been very big in opposing coal development in the Crow's Nest Pass and in eastern slopes of the Rocky Mountains, taking on environmental issues like clean water, because the Old Man River, our main water source here in Lethbridge, comes from the headwaters. The headwaters originate in the Eastern Rockies. And so, I'm really curious to see how that's going to play out. If anybody can unseat the Conservative candidate this time around, it's going to be him. The NDP just doesn't have a chance.
I wondered if we were speculating earlier the Trump effect on Alberta voters, who we kind of lump in with MAGA a little bit, but with all this anti-Canadian rhetoric coming from Trump, how is that sitting with Conservative voters in Alberta? Are they drawing parallels there, or is that not going to influence their federal vote here?
I don't know how individual voters here in Alberta are responding to Trump, but voter intention, 1 in 3 voters are intending on voting for Liberals this election. Yeah, that's significant.
That is huge.
Yeah, and we have almost 5 million people in the province, and we have only about 3 million in Calgary and Edmonton. So there's still 2 million people in Alberta. That's a significant chunk of the population, and most of those live outside of the mid-sized cities. Like outside of that, when you combine Lethbridge and Grand Prairie and Red Deer together, that's still less than 500,000 people. So there's still a good chunk of people outside of the major centers who are voting and most likely are going to be voting Conservative. So that has a huge impact on the election results.
We have an independent on the board on CBC. I don't know if you got that.
Anybody know who that is?
What's that?
Anybody know who that is?
Not a clue.
I don't know. That means I need to flip around my board again here.
An independent. So yeah, the Greens have still not reappeared on that board. The NDP
The Greens
are
did
sitting
reappear.
Oh, did they? Well, they've been bumped
for a minute, and they kind of vanished again. But also, the other thing I wanted to mention is Carleton's now released its first poll numbers.
Yep.
Carleton being Pierre Poilievre's writing. And although it's not indicative of anything, Pierre Poilievre is not in the lead. He is Liberal is actually in the lead in that writing right now.
With a decent margin, it's like 300 votes to 500 votes ish, I think, for Bruce Fanjoy, the Liberal candidate. So let's hope that trend continues. I'll drink fizzy water to that.
Kim, do you have any predictions on whether we're going to have a majority or a minority, and do you have a preference?
A minority would be my preference. If I have the choice between a minority or a majority, of the Liberals, I'm gonna vote with minority. I don't have a prediction on. It's just too close to tell. If you'd asked me like a month ago, I probably would have said a majority. But
for who? A month ago, I feel like.
Well, a month ago I would have said the Liberals, but like 2 months ago I would have said the Conservatives.
I have no sense of time anymore, so that's probably right. The timeline it did shift.
It's only been called 5 weeks. The campaign was only 5 weeks long, so 2 months ago would have been prior to the campaign. Well, I guess maybe a little bit more than 2 months before Carney came on, before Justin Trudeau stepped down. The Conservatives easily would have won a majority government. But yeah, I really can't say one way or the other whether it's going to be a majority or a minority government. It's just I'm probably leaning towards a majority just based on the rhetoric I've been hearing. People really rallying around the Liberal brand and wanting to see Mark Carney take control and take Donald Trump to the table or whatever. But I can't say for sure. I'm really not good at predicting stuff. So.
Plus, then you have to be held to it, right? We were just saying a lot of these predictor websites are going to be hearing it afterwards, right? Like they're either going to be blamed or heralded as heroes in terms of the outcome of strategic voting. I'm wondering if we can kind of react to this because it's hold on. There's a tweet by Robin Maynard, and it kind of hits on some of the things that Kim and Ash especially were talking about in terms of winning or losing. I'm just going to pull it up here so folks can see it. Whoever is elected will need to fight against imperialism and extraction and to defend Black, Indigenous, Palestinian, racialized, poor, and unhoused people from border violence, brutal policing and prisons, and murderous austerity. But Poilievre poses the largest threat to human and ecological life that Canadians have faced in a generation.
Wild.
Do you agree with the statement? Anybody want to hit on that? You can't. Robin's not here to defend herself. She would do so quite eloquently, I imagine. But I mean, I'm not going to argue with that. There are some differences in terms of Pierre and Mark, and the parties that they stand for. But all of those main items that we're talking about, when she says murderous austerity, that will impact absolutely all of us if you don't give a shit about anything else. Which you should.
I'll tell you. So it's always interesting to me because people don't know anything about Mark Carney's, obviously about his affiliations and his ties, and how strongly those people he's affiliated with are entrenched in in authoritarianism, and particularly in talking about brutal policing in prisons. The Bronfman family that I've talked about many, many times here literally own huge swaths of the for-profit prison system in the United States. Huge swaths of it. So Mark Carney is most certainly going to lead us down the road of for-profit prison system because it's in the best interest of his handlers. It's also he's already talked about austerity. He is 100% anti-Palestinian. The man is owned by some of the most evil people who have been, annihilating and Palestinians, whether it's AI technology or their weapon systems, or just by funding the Israeli regime. He's owned by those same people. Like it's naive and simply just irresponsible to assume that Mark Carney is the lesser of two evils. They're both evil. They're both evil. And to be like giving him the benefit of the doubt without like actually having a critical thought about who owns Mark Carney, because someone like him who is as boring and as like he has no public appeal, he has no he's not good at public speaking, like there's nothing populist about him, and for him to be a populist leader to go and like turn the Liberal Party around, like that doesn't happen organically. Never happens organically. So but people don't want to know about all this background stuff. So I do think it's I don't know. It bothers me when people try to say that like Mark Carney in some way is going to be better than Pierre Poilievre on any of these issues, when that's simply just not factual, because we know who Mark Carney, who his allegiances are. We know where they lie. So, and not to mention like, we're talking about like unhoused people. Like he's already got BlackRock on his team, their whole mandate is to buy up all of the real estate so that they can charge you infinite rent. Like he's got people on his team that are saying the exact opposite of what like these are the things that we need to have, right? Fight against imperialism. Like Mark Carney's literally Wall Street. He is literally imperialism. Like that's what.
And
he is.
He's talked about.
Capitalism.
Yeah, I want to draw attention to the fact, like when he talked about pipelines and resource extraction, he talked about acting with maximum force. And when asked about Indigenous consultation, where like Pierre Poilievre obviously had just disdain for the idea and couldn't even answer the question, Carney too, he was like, well, I think his quote there was, we'll negotiate or we'll go into consultations, but with a purpose. And so when it comes to resource extraction, he also uses caution in that, well, Indigenous people can't get in the way of our economic needs. And so, he says it with a smile on his face, but he has the same harsh ideas in store for us. I think you're right in terms of being boring. I've had a lot of people comment that he just kind of puts them to sleep when he's speaking, and he's not very interesting to listen to. He's smug. I mean, I'm working on Wall Street that long probably makes you smug, but I think the longer, that's why they had like the shortest campaign possible, because I think the longer voters were exposed to Carney, the more problems they were going to have. Whether it be they finally start talking about some of the things that you've been talking about, or he just starts to wear off, the shine kind of starts to wear off of him the same way Poilievre's star is just completely dulled, if he ever had a star. Like that's got to be one of the most boring politicians as well, is Poilievre.
Oh my God, yes. And I think the other thing too is that like Carney's already done, like even just as like the short stint he did as PM, now longer stint, but the short stint, like in that short time he deregulated the mining industry, like immediately was like, we don't need any more federal oversight in the mining industry. That's
because they have such a great track record of human rights and environmental,
and that directly affects Indigenous communities, right? And like he was like, I trust the premiers, who are all conservative premiers, right? Like it's like he's shown his true colors. He's not going to be any different than who he's been for the last 20 years. Yeah. People hated him in England, as the governor of the Bank of England. And there's a lot of people who've talked about him and like, he's a really mean person and he's not good to work for. And I think that's the vibe I get from him regardless.
Like Ellen DeGeneres.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Everyone thinks they're like the nicest person. And then you find out like shocking. But so update on the ticker again. Although like I'm going to sign off soon. I cannot possibly stay up too late. We probably won't get to announce here on Rabble Rants, whether or not the Liberals will have an official government status. I think it's looking pretty good for them, but it's 158 to 142 right now. That is not a majority number. So we could have a very... Are we going to be back in another election? Like, is he going to be able to get anything that he wants done? Yes, because the Conservatives largely have the same ideas. I don't know. It's not a healthy government for progressives, I'll tell you that much. But the NDP are at least approaching official party status. They're at 10 on the ticker, and the Greens have popped their head up again. So in the morning, it looks like we will have a Liberal government, but how much power they actually yield is still to be seen. It will make for a lot of contentious times in the House, I'm thinking. When are they going back?
Actually, I don't think I have a date for when they're going to be going back.
It's probably like next September.
They do take a lot of breaks.
Yeah.
I did see a stat go by that shows Matthew Green in 3rd place in Hamilton Center.
Oh my.
And Mike Morris by a hair for the Greens.
And I'm surprised. I'm really, really surprised that Jessa hasn't commented on the status of Burnaby. I haven't mentioned it because I figured she would.
No, I've been kind of... No. What, Joe? What is it?
Currently, well, there's no decisions yet, but currently Burnaby has it's got 3 poll stations in, so only 1.5% of the vote. So this is not indicative of anything yet, but Liberals are currently leading the Burnaby Central riding.
Is Jagmeet at least second?
Jagmeet is tied for second right now with the Conservative.
Well,
that's a spicy meatball.
I want to see his speech. Does he still come out and dance? Like, what is
to be honest, if I was him, I wouldn't be saying anything because, I mean, again, only three polls have been returned, and it's only 1.5% of the vote. This is not indicative of anything. This could be 3.
It's all I got now to go off, Joe, because I'm not going to wait for all those polls to come in. So, but yeah, like their base has been decimated. Lulu draws attention to it there in the comments. But even if you begrudgingly we're going to go hand out flyers or whatnot, even work on the campaign, it wasn't going to be with the same kind of vigor they'd done it before. And I know a lot of NDPers that just work. I mean, it's been one after the other, because in Ontario, we also have a really oppressive central office for the Ontario NDP. So they, you've seen with Sarah Jama, if you don't live in the province. And so like they have just found all these different ways to deplete their base, but whether it's celebrating the BC NDP and all their pipelines and their use of the RCMP, to their really lackluster support of Palestine until it became, shit or get off the pot kind of moment. And we're all just so fucking burnt out anyway, right? So if you want people to go out in these political times and really like go to their neighbors and vouch for you and say like, I know this is the answer, here's where you can find hope, and spend that political capital you have with your contacts, you better be really sure that their values align with you. And I don't think a lot of people could say that anymore about the NDP. And I thought a lot of Liberals, I mean, I guess I thought too nicely of some Liberal supporters that they would continue to hold their party up despite their complicity in the genocide. And just, I don't know, the state of just people's material conditions, like whether or not you can blame the Conservative government we have in Ontario, but like then BC has the NDP. They're not all Conservative premiers, but we're all in like kind of really shitty material conditions than when we started this. So, yeah, it's funny that the Bloc will end up holding the sway here in the House after all that. After all, we teased Blanchet, that it didn't really matter in the debate. He kind of had fun with it because he only had to speak to Quebec voters. In the end, looks like they'll hold the fate of a lot of these policies, perhaps, in their hands. But hopefully we're not back at the polls anytime soon. I mean,
Oh my God.
I'd be
I can't
surprised.
handle that. Sean, I can't even see your face because I'm showing Lulu's comment here. Thank you for that, Lulu. It's, you and I are on the same page when it comes to that. Oh, Leslie Church. She looks like she won her riding. I was cheering for her to lose. So I have a lot of disappointment tonight that I'm sitting with. There's just a few bright spots, I think. I was kind of like Ash
There's a
coming
lot of
into
hate
this.
watching that you're doing there. Like,
Me? No.
Watch them lose. Watch them lose. Watch them lose.
Yeah, in the morning I'll wake up, like peek and check it out. But anybody want to have some final thoughts on what they've seen for the evening before we sign off and leave folks to get the results on their lonesome?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be wandering around the bowels of TikTok for a while after this and continue to watch and monitor. I may start up a live in regards there, so if people want to be interactive and can come join me there, as we're going to be looking and continuing to watch. If you're of the late awake late, and I may have a drink at that point. Fuck it, I will. I think some of the final thoughts is I think yes, the Liberal CBC's call for it to be a Liberal government is definitely correct. I'm kind of thinking, especially since I haven't really seen many seats flipping, I'm kind of thinking we're going to have another minority government. I think it's going to be there. I just don't know who it's going to be with. And if it is, be honest, they usually can lean on the NDP to support them. But if they don't have the seats, I don't think it's going to be good.
Well, plus he just said don't trust the Liberals, so he's kind of painted himself into a corner there. And you know what? Who gives a fuck? Because he's probably not even going to be there, so he could take that hit. I made these decisions. The truth is, his staffers made this decision. Like, I kind of shit on him, Jagmeet, at the beginning for saying he made the decision to side with the Liberals, even though he loves his party, but he did it for Canada. But he doesn't decide anything on his own. It's like, that's Jennifer Howard and Anne McGraths of the world and the Brian Tops and, what the hell's that? What's that guy Michael's name? Lulu might be able to help me. The one that came from Ontario, and he's still got his fingers in all of this shit. And they're the ones that kind of make these decisions to shift the party to this. Michael Balagas. I beat you to it, Lulu. These are like the people you don't know, but they're actually the puppeteers behind the party. So Jagmeet will be able to fall on his sword, and they can just rebrand like the Liberals did. They're already kind of watching the benefits of that. But Ashley, how you feeling?
Well, I'm not surprised, but happy that looks like it's gonna be a minority over a majority.
Yeah, a little bit of a relief.
A little, but it's just more like a little more like a fuck you, I think they definitely thought that they were gonna win a landslide, which I thought so too, to be honest. But a little bit more maybe that they have to be maybe extra cautious. Or just a little bit cautious. I don't know. I mean, their policies align with the Conservatives. So honestly, I think they'll be happy. But it'll be a real pain in the ass for the Conservatives to have to concede that they agree with Mark Carney. I think that'll be really because their whole campaign has been like anti-liberal, and now they're gonna, once they realize that Mark Carney is a Conservative, they're gonna have to start to agree with him in some capacity. I'm sure.
Yeah. We try to hold them to account to the things they say on the campaign trail, but that seems a little hard to do in practice. I mean, we can do it here on the show, but they usually don't have to stick to their predictions in the same way we have to. Sean, all right, you're still watching a couple seats locally, probably. Are they all declared in the Atlantic?
They're probably getting there. I've really been just kind of watching CBC for the notable stuff going by. There hasn't been a lot of Nova Scotia, but I've got a feeling I knew how some of the races went. But there were a few squeakers to follow, and I will follow up on those. In terms of the broader thing that we're seeing, I mean, I still feel good about my minority Liberal prediction. I kind of have been saying that for a while, even before the debate and after the debate. I kind of know, even the pundits will say, like, we always get it wrong with the debate and what effect it has on the voter intent. And there did appear to be a correction around the time of the debate where the red and the blue lines started to converge again, where they had been growing apart. And so I had anticipated there would be some kind of ending of the honeymoon with Carney, even with a short campaign. I thought that would be that the sort of like this, incredible ascent was probably not sustainable, and we'd see a bit of a correction. And yeah, so based on how vote efficiency pans out, I still think it looks like a liberal minority. I think the last thing that Pierre Poilievre would be good at in his life would be being the leader of the Conservative Party in a minority parliament. He just can't do it. He's not a leader. He's not a deal maker. He is, someone else's attack dog who's been
way too fucking arrogant.
Now, yeah, exactly. Like there's not enough substance to it. There's not enough. He doesn't have any political goodwill. I mean, like we're watching the whole country align. Like people like support parties they hate to stop this man. And so, I don't think that I think a conservative minority would probably be pretty short lived. I would give that government about 6 months to live. And with the NDP, and we'll never stop trashing the NDP, of course, but like what I've been saying, for months, I think we're really seeing it to come to fruition that the enterprise of pursuing swing liberal voters on the NDP's part is massively, massively backfiring, as all those fair weather liberals go back to the Liberal Party because they will always take the real thing over a facsimile. And we see the massive gap where all those missing volunteers are, all those people that have been alienated by the party federally. And just like, I don't even, it's funny, I run into the federal candidate for my riding for the NDP, and he's a really nice guy. We're both from Cape Breton. So I got no problem with the guy. And I wish him all the best. I think that even if the provincial party had not massively betrayed me in the fall last year, and I had not quit the party, I probably would still have sat this one out. And that was my plan. Already 6 months out, I kind of clocked out of the Fed party in 2021. So I don't know, like it doesn't really actually change much for me. But yeah, I think that we're really seeing, the punishment of that stupid idea of like we'll just be diet liberals. It's really, really backfiring on them. I don't think they will learn anything. I don't think there was any redeeming that party without a thorough. I mean, and Jesse, you know this as well as I do. Basically, everyone on the upper administrative layer of that party needs to be frog marched out of the building with a banker's box of their belongings before there can ever be any redemption for that party, presuming it's possible at all. Like the problems are at the staff layer, and that's why it's such a hard thing to deal with. Is because it's not just Jagmeet, it's the people around Jagmeet and under Jagmeet that nobody knows their names. That are the entrenched class of really problematic individuals in the party. They're so hard to get rid of.
Yeah, it's not just even the individuals, it's the structure as well. But we're going to put together a panel of folks to...
NDP has now gotten one seat elected, and that
Who is it?
Rosemont, la Petite Patrie, it's in Quebec, is Alexandre Boulras.
Boulris?
Yeah.
He was the deputy leader for the Ontario or for the federal party for some time. I've heard
so he's been confirmed.
Yeah, so that's going to be likely their only seat in Quebec, I imagine. I'm just again before we sign off, I'm looking at some of the Ontario numbers as they're trickling in, and most of them are just Liberal and Conservative races, with the NDP a distant third, almost on par with some of the Green numbers that are coming in. And, right now they're at less than 5% of the popular vote. Not good for them. So yeah, we're going to hold a panel, probably produce it as an episode of Blueprints of Disruption, part of the Inside the NDP series, where we talk about where folks go from here. Whether it's a reformist discussion about the NDP, I don't know. Hopefully not. Hopefully it, but I won't control it. We'll see where people are going. But hopefully people are at this stage where they're looking at these results, like from progressives. I'm not talking to liberals. Fuck yeah. And they're going, okay, we need something like wholly different. Right? Because Sean's talking about the people and Jess is talking about the structure. And we know the grassroots volunteers are all, that wasn't working. Even before they betrayed a lot of people with, these moments, they were structurally withdrawing from the members as well, right? They took funding from the ridings. They limited their access to democracy within the party in all these different ways. And so where do people go who feel like they have no political home? What do they do around election time? What do they do not at election time? I mean, we talk about organizing, but some people still feel like the electoral sphere isn't to be written off. So what should they be doing? You know, should they try to overtake the NDP? Should they change the Greens around? You know, everyone kind of has an opinion on it. But I think this election gives us a whole new set of more meat to chew on in terms of and evidence that this is the downfall of the NDP. However, they are, I know we're like counting to see if they get official party status, like that's going to be some sort of fucking accomplishment. Maybe they do dance for official party status. I put nothing beneath the responses of these folks, but I will love to see the speeches of Polyev. I'm curious to what he's going to say. Right now it's 157 to 148. It's not a blowout by any means, so if it's close, we're going to have to hear about it. And what does Jagmeet say as a winner, but yet maybe a loser in his riding? The Green Party, again, they seem just non-entities. Sorry, I know, Sean, you worked on Rana's campaign, but yeah, they're not returning very impressive numbers either. They should have had some more growth by now as a federal party. So,
especially now, like there's a missed opportunity with the decline of the NDP to snap up Liberal voters and to occupy the space they vacated, and they didn't do enough to take that space.
Yeah. And I think maybe some people didn't even, their heart wasn't in it, you know, like taking votes away from Carney was the most likely scenario for any progressives running, whether they be NDP or Green. And when they see Polyev, I know Ash is just like, are you serious? Like, back to this, like, they're the same thing. Yes, but not everyone's seeing that, right? Like, they're stuck in this save Canada from Polyev, from Trump, and this is the road that they're taking. But
campaign of fear.
Yeah,
That's why
it
I was
is.
calling
It operates most of our elections now, unfortunately. But yeah, so thank you everybody who stayed and who joined in. I love the check-ins.
Final report before we go there.
For it.
Burnaby's got 5 polls have returned, and still in the lead is Wade Chang of the Liberal Party in Burnaby Central. And in Carleton, still hasn't been confirmed anything, but 5 polls have returned also, and still in the lead is Bruce Fanjoy of the Liberal Party.
Oh my God.
And in Halifax, it does look as if Lisa Roberts did get the shellacking that Smart Voting promised her, and she's in 3rd place behind the not that popular Conservative and the wildly more popular Liberal Shannon Madiba.
Well, who knows? After our counter's at 3 hours and 11 minutes, and there's still so many unknowns. But I will start to be cross-eyed if I stay on any longer. So I very much appreciate the effort and all the stuff that you guys brought to the table, and it made for a meaningful discussion, I think. And plus, some folks could tune in with us and not have to listen to legacy media repeat all of the talking points that would make Ash's head explode. So hopefully you had CBC
as entertaining
on
as
mute,
that might
Ash.
be, we're happy her head did not explode.
No, but if we get her talking about Carney any longer, I mean, like, just buckle up, Ash, right?
Oh, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm sure as it unrolls, there'll be lots to talk about.
Yeah.
4
And
years
thanks-
of pure content from you.
Oh,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
She's already got, like, her drafts is full. It's ready to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so check out, all these folks are on TikTok. I don't know if they've got their handles there. You can find them. I am too. I don't have my handle there. It's like Lefty. I don't even know. You can look up my name, I guess, if you want to see my silly videos. But
So
please check
I'm
out
always
the
under
podcast.
this name, regardless of the platform. And yeah, I'll probably be firing up there, especially as I'm looking at that particular number. If you guys take a look on there, that number suddenly got a little bit more uncomfortably close. So yes, by all means.
Oh my God. I'm logging off when it's 154 to 152. But I can't.
Yeah.
I just can't. I've been up since 4 a.m. and I will burn myself right out. So know your limits and play within them.
Absolutely.
But you you can stay on if you want, but
I will for sure. And again, I'm gonna be checking up all these numbers and probably seeing if I can continue to pump these things out to let people know as we're watching it again. And yeah, because I think people want to see.
oh shit.
I mean, oh, you saw another screen, did you?
Yeah, like the popular vote too is like the same. It's like 43 to 41%.
So the prairie votes are coming in, if you haven't figured that out yet. So we shall see. But yeah.
All right.
All right, thanks very much, everyone.
Until next time, folks, make sure you check us out Friday. Again, we're live at noon, as we always are, and there is going to be a lot more to talk about, I'm sure. And until next time, keep disrupting, folks.